Sweet. Really? Yep. I know, right? I don't know how people do it. My, because I will use ad blockers sometimes because I'm just like, I just have them on, and it will. They haven't really been working. Mhm.
Back randomly. How about now? You guys hear me? Thank you, Tusty. I appreciate it. Always good seeing you around. So you have a good day?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, my day's all right. I gotta do some stuff, figure some stuff out to like close out my day after this, but I haven't been as productive as I would have liked to be. But you know, there's only so much I guess that you can typically do.
As long as you got something done and you can be proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you were playing some Hearthstone for a minute while I was getting
It's
set up.
a, it's a game similar to Hearthstone. It's I don't really know, I guess, how to describe what it is, but yeah, it's a game similar to Hearthstone.
Oh, I could not tell what it was. Looked good though.
Yeah, it's some new game. Yeah.
Oh, explain. I like card games, so
It's kind of like it's more like Slay the Spire. It's called Monster Train. It's a game that I played for like 1 second. The first one was the game that I played for like 1 second when it originally came out, but it's it's uh it's a fun game to just kind of play as like one of those like, you know, go through, do dumb shit and stuff. So, but yeah.
oh, I might have to check that out. I just started playing Balatro and I'm hating my life for it.
Oh my, I love Balatro.
It'll suck up an hour to 2 hours of your day in no time
Absolutely.
as you sit there and fail
Fantastic.
hands. All right,
Yeah,
so
good.
I kind of wanted to start the party with mentioning Douglas Adams. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I believe so.
Yeah, he's the dude that created Dilbert.
Graded what?
Dilbert.
Okay, maybe I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, it's a comic strip that's been around for decades at this point. And
Mm.
he got in trouble because he did an interview and he said, like, hey, we as white people need to move as far away from black people as possible. We just, if we try to help them, we're racist. If we don't, you know, we're just horrible people. So just, cut your losses and move as far away from black people as possible.
That's the takeaway, huh? And that was his thing. When did he say this?
I want to say this was 6 years ago, somewhere like that.
Oh, okay.
This was, like 8 years ago. And as of recently, I want to say, I was like 2 years ago. Thank you, Moon. Felt like a lifetime ago.
Hey, look what I can do.
And just recently, we find out that he has prostate cancer.
Deer teeth for you.
Oh,
So a lot of black creators are not giving a fuck at this point, but seems like karma has come back around on him, and it's horrible to hear.
yeah. It seems like it is for him, yeah. At the same time as like Biden?
Exactly. He was comparing himself to Biden. He's like, I have the same prostate cancer that Biden has, and I'm not going to be around for another 2 years kind of message. And this just happened like a couple days ago.
Really?
The timing is astonishing.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, I don't want to take joy in something horrible like that. I know he has family and friends that love him, but he also put a lot of bad energy out there, and that's gonna be the response he gets.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of black fatigue has been circulating more and more since this woman decided to call a child the hard R for whatever reason she wanted to do so, and made over $700,000 doing so.
Is he up to 700 now?
It was over 700,000. I don't know if she's actually going to get the money, but because there's a lot of people out there trying to stop the bank from being able to pay that money out.
I see.
But all of a sudden, the meme of the guy on the plane with the Burger King crown all of a sudden has been resurfacing.
Yeah. That guy is I feel like I don't, because what it felt like for that specific woman was a lot of people were trying to make the comparison to the Carmelo Anthony stuff, or at least they were trying to like play off of that. I don't know really why that was like such a big catalyst for so many people, like on in connecting that, because the Carmelo Anthony thing in itself didn't have a racial component. Like, as far as I'm aware, it was literally just like a black kid who stabbed a white kid, and there's no evidence to show that it was like racially motivated or anything. It felt like the racial stuff kind of happened with people online more than in the actual event. And so I thought it was really weird when this chick just called a kid the hard R, that they were trying to make these comparisons to that. Like, hey, if nobody has to care about Carmelo Anthony, then we don't have to care about this chick. And it's like, it's such a weird comparison to me between like events.
And that's kind of what began the situation is, well, the start of the conversation that's been happening, because people feel that black violence is getting out of hand and that black people are going to commit crime like this and poor white kids are going to get attacked. And so when this woman did this, it was like taking back some sort of agency for white people. So when her Gibson Go went up, people were anonymously donating with names mirroring the kid that got stabbed. She was like their knight in this instance.
Yeah, that's just, it felt so like weird to me as a one to grab onto. I was very surprised at how much money she was garnering. Like, I remember when it had gone down, I was like, there's no earthly way that it's gonna get like super like go out there like crazy, but it did. So, um, it's I don't know. It was really still even very surprising to me right now. Like listening to people's commentary. Like I've listened to like Asmongold's like commentary, and he's like, like, what are you gonna do? Like stuff like that. And there's a lot of people who speak about the kid like taking stuff out of her bag, and they use very like adult language or don't point to the fact that they're literally a child, right? They'll be like, yeah, if somebody steals your stuff, like if some black person steals your stuff, some people are going to respond like that. It's like, it's not like this is like a fucking 55-year-old like dude who's coming through and stealing something out of a bag, man. Like this is, I don't know. Like it's so weird that this is their opportunity in their mind to reclaim like some kind of power, lost power. It's really weird.
Well, that's been the insanity of it all. And like, I don't know how true all of the information is in regards to that instance. I don't know exactly how old this kid was. It's been ranging from 5 to 15. They've been saying the kid was, on a high level of autism, all sorts of things. I don't know, but either way it goes, I don't see why you'd be screaming slurs at a minor. And I don't know if this kid even went through this woman's bag. Like these are all things I don't know
any of those things either. Yeah.
But the juxtaposition that I kind of appreciated were a lot of black creators going back over this woman's history and finding her DUIs and her domestic violence cases to show that this woman is not the person you want to be championing.
Yeah, like I mean, I would like get it if she was, for instance, like the victim of some situation, right? Because if she was like an actual victim of something, I'd be like, okay, you know what, taking some of those like prior situations, whatever. But like the I don't know about like the domestic violence and stuff, but I'll just like grant it that you look through that and that's the case, and that just totally wouldn't surprise me based on her reaction to a totally mundane, not a real big situation with a completely unreasonable response. And yeah, I feel like it's just such a bad look. I just like publicly, I don't know why that I'm seeing people like defend it. Maybe like privately, you'll be like, haha, like we're getting back. But like to so many people publicly defending it is so weird to me that this is your thing.
The amount of money she garnered feels like an indicator of the temperature that's in America right now when it comes down to race issues. And it primarily weighs down on black people, unfortunately, considering the per capita idea of how many of us there are versus how many of everybody else there is. We all of a sudden end up back in the position where we were before, where Hillary Clinton was calling us super predators and Ronald Reagan was calling out welfare queens. It's like black people tend to be the root of the problem. And then once you get past black people, it goes down to immigrants in general.
Yeah, it's I feel like I feel like I could be a lot more understanding because I try to be very understanding of people from like most positions, and I feel like I could try to really be understanding of the positions here. But the problem is just that like for this, the getting back at the like black community, or like, yeah, we're standing up to the black community. Like if this was, I don't know, it's just, I guess how I would express it is, in this situation, people getting behind her indicates to me like a level of like we're done that is greater than what I would have expected typically. Like if you asked me to guess how done is like a tremendous amount of people, but particularly like white people with black people, I would I would not say that something like this would be like the result. I would say like they probably don't want to hear about George Floyd anymore. They don't want to hear about like, police violence against black people, stuff like that. But even like the idea that they're talking about pardoning Derek Chauvin again, like that's like crazy to me. But I don't know. Maybe not maybe. I mean, I am objectively out of touch because, you know, obviously I was proven to be incorrect in my assumptions.
There was an individual I was talking to for a short period of time, and the way he was putting these things out is, yeah, definitely the George Floyd stuff, and then them pinning all the rioting and everything that happened around that on black people. Um, and then the talk from certain spaces, I'm going to say alternative media, saying that white people are becoming the victims of everything and that white guilt is a big old issue they don't need to have. Moving forward to seeing the president and other people around government kind of pushing some of these ideas. Like just recently we had this whole idea of genocide happening in South Africa. These are all feeding into these ideas.
Yeah, I literally just watched I guess the meeting that the president had with in regards to the genocide that was happening, and it was I don't know how anybody could be convinced really by that information because it was just Trump like playing videos that didn't really show much of anything, and then being like, "Oh, this is like the worst thing ever. Like this is obviously genocidal." It's just like one dude, small part of the party. It looks like it was difficult to even find some of the locations that he was like referencing and figuring out what was going on. He didn't have any answers when he like prompted, "Hey, where is that?" He was literally asked, "Where is that? I'd like to know more about that." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." Okay, that's crazy that people are like willing to take that information and just be like, it doesn't matter that he can't articulate where it's from. But yeah.
Yeah, kind of the idea that they're willing to call this a genocide before they're willing to call things like the ethnic cleansing they're trying to do in Gaza anything more than what it is kind of ridiculous.
It was so funny because Trump said it was, what was it? I think he said it's crazy. They're moving into their neighborhoods, they're kicking them out of their houses, and they're killing them, and the military is like letting them do it. He has no evidence for this, but the funny part is they're literally doing that in the West Bank. And he is like, we haven't, like, where's that commentary for that? I thought that was really funny that he's like, okay, now we care about that shit. It's like, okay, bro, I got you.
Yeah, he actually pressed the president of South Africa about it within the last day or so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is it?
So yeah, but for the specific idea of like black fatigue as being like people are just getting tired of like black I guess I feel like more of what it's stemming from is like kind of a misunderstanding about things like DEI, the pressing of people, or the pressing of not only DEI, but I forget what the other thing was. But either way, I'll just start with like DEI. The lack of understanding that people have about DEI and thinking that it's like causing unqualified people to get hired, and that being really like spooky to a lot of people as being like the liberals or the Democrats just are doing all these crazy things. And it's just kind of like justifying people feeling like black people are just demanding so much and they feel like they're not giving enough in return, or some whatever they decide is enough in a return. And I think also coupled with a lot of the misinformation about like I forget, is the DEI, and I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, it's like stuff like that, like the mainstream pushes from the Trump administration and conservative bases to kind of paint a pretty like understandably exhaustive picture for like the general public. Like if I didn't know about DEI, if I didn't know about like crime statistics, if I didn't know about a lot of these things. Oh, and like wokeism, like woke ideology, the idea that like you can never criticize a black person literally ever for anything, otherwise you'll be canceled. This like idea that people have that that thing exists. Like if you couple all of these things in and you just don't really actually examine these things, I can understand why people would get like exhausted with the idea of being around black people. And I think that's why it's happening and why it's so successful is because it's pretty understandable if you kind of let your brain fall out of your ears.
Yeah, if you buy into the entire narrative that what you said is true, of course, you would feel that you're powerless and that every other minority in the country has more agency than you do, which I just don't
Yeah.
believe to be true. And especially with the DEI thing, a lot of things and a lot of statistics are mischaracterized purposely, I would say, for malicious reasons. DEI is one of the main ones because when you look at the way it actually functions, it does not keep white people out of jobs and it doesn't guarantee black people or anybody else a job. Same thing, the one that comes up the most often is 1350.
Yeah.
And when you ask someone where that stat comes from and how that stat is represented, they usually can't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. They usually can't. They usually just say, I've heard a lot of ranging things like 13% of the population, 50% of all crime, stuff like that.
Violent crime
Like,
specifically.
yeah, but like I've heard a lot of people say just literally all crime, 50% of all crime, even is what they'll say, and then, oh yeah, they're like, oh no, 50% of violent crime, and then I've heard 50% of murders, and then whatever. Like, I feel like depending on who you ask, you're gonna get a different. Like, there's not even. I feel like people just know the numbers, not even what the numbers represent. Um, and they know that, or they think that it's like damning, it's like bad. You know the numbers and know that they're bad numbers, and that's it.
Yeah, the FBI table for showing the statistics of arrests is taken widely out of context is just literally that black people get arrested more often than their white counterparts, which doesn't account for convictions, anything else
Yep.
along the way. But they'll always like to take those numbers and misrepresent them. And this is where I get to the most daunting portion of this, and that actually made me want to talk about it, is our black brethren of the conservative faction are leaning into this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know how many of them are
Um,
grifters or what the deal is, but they are more than happy to be useful idiots and pushing forward a narrative and saying, well, look, these black people are also tired of it too.
yeah. I think because I can kind of realistically see how if you don't care to like do not even necessarily if you don't care to do any research of your own. If you don't care to do any research and you listen to very specific sources, how you can come to this conclusion. I can pretty realistically see how like black conservatives could feel like this is also like a like how a black conservative could reasonably fall into this idea as well. So with that in mind, I'm like, I could imagine a lot of them. Actually, I don't know if I could say a lot of them aren't grifters because I don't know. They probably have family members that are just like, here is why what you're saying is stupid. You know, um, I guarantee you, if they speak with their family, they probably have been sat down once or twice and then just been like, actually, this is not the way that you're making it out to be in your content.
Oh, my family's super conservative, so I'm the only one chastising them for it. And they're just saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm just swallowed up by left wing media. So
It's wild. That's wild. There's no shot. No shot. But yeah, I mean, I could see it going either way. I like to generally give the benefit of the doubt that people are trying to be honest. But the conservatives who are kind of painting it that way, and like the place that we're headed with this, I don't really know. I don't really know what to do about, especially stuff like DEI. Like, because when you look into like DEI and you really get into it, it's obviously not what they're making it out to be. But I feel like people will argue, no matter what, on the merits that you're wrong about DEI. Like, I feel like it's been such a successful campaign to just say DEI is about hiring unqualified people. And even if you present like in large form arguments against that idea, it's just people will argue like almost against the idea that even an equally qualified person of a different race or gender or anything like that should like an example is should even be like qualified for these things. And the example that I have is like the Trump administration crackdown on DEI, where it feels like literally what they're doing is reverse DEI, like what they believe is DEI, but the reverse, where they are not satisfied with the demographics of a specific occupation unless it's like almost all white men, and then DEI is not in place. If there is like really any real representation of non-white men, then it's DEI, and then it's actually good when there's not that representation. They're literally just like looking at the number of people who are not white or not white men, and are just going like, there needs to be X amount. They're not looking at qualifications. They're not doing any of that. And I think if you have that in mind, you can look at like all of the Trump administration's actions, and actually it like fits perfectly with their playbook.
oh, absolutely. When they understand that the DEI programs are also set to help them if they have disabilities, if they're veterans, like pretty much all these different aspects of DEI that actually benefit white Americans as well. It's not that they're not getting the jobs because people that are unqualified are getting them. It's that they want to get rid of these programs so corporations don't have to make caveats for people with disabilities, with like for any other reason. So all the different things that they have to carve out for people, they no longer have to pay for, and they can fire people. And like you said, with the Trump administration, or like honestly, there was no merit within corporations, within government for the most part. There tends to be a lot of nepotism. So if they're saying we want to go back to a merit-based system, like when were we in a merit-based system?
Yeah, exactly. There was a guy that I was watching that I got suggested to, who had some cracked stats. For specifically talking about DEI. I forget who he was. My chat is probably going to remember who I'm talking about. Who was talking about like, when did we have a merit-based system? And he went through periods of time in American history, and it's like, 30 years ago or something, there was only like, I think it was like 30 years ago, there was only like 5 black governors ever through all of American history, leading up to like 30 years ago. But he went through all these different numbers of like number of women in the Forbes 500, number of black people in the Forbes 500 versus governors and black senators. And it's like, it's even like really, really low as soon as like 15 years ago. The number of like black people and women inside of these things. So it's like, if you have somebody that's saying that's when we were merit-based, then his argument was like, hold them to the fire and be like, okay, so you believe that there was only 5 black people ever in all of American history that were qualified up to, 1990 for governor. 5 ever that were born. And then you just look like racist because like obviously there's more than 5 that have been qualified to be governor since 1990, since the 1750, and just like it was really cool. I tried to remember the numbers and stuff, and I probably have them somewhere, but it was like really nice. Like I thought it was a really concise, good argument to be able to say like obviously the merit-based argument is absolute nonsense and it's laughable. The numbers were laughable on its face. So I think an argument like that could maybe be a little bit like self-reflective for people who don't understand how that works.
I'm glad you bring that up. I recently did a video about Republican nominee John James. And he's a conservative. He likes to go out and talk about it. His father pulled himself up by his bootstraps and started a trucking company with no excuses. And, his parents told him there's no racism in America, all this other garbage. And when you actually look up what his father did to get to where he was, which his son is now benefiting from, his father started working for Chevrolet. And he was in an executive position, or not in a management position, which got him to be able to afford a truck. So he's like, well, I don't want to continue working for someone. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to get this truck with the position that I have. And then found out that the trucking companies weren't allowing black people to be involved in the contracts that were being done. And he had to go to the Supreme Court to actually fight against discrimination. This could have been a great rallying call for civil rights in general, to see that black people weren't allowed into business. Yet he would rather spread the narrative that everything's fine as it is, and if you just work hard enough, you'll get what you need.
Wait, when was this?
His father or him?
Him and his whole thing.
John James is currently running, I believe, for governor of Michigan.
Really? And he, so you're saying this guy who's currently running for governor of Michigan experienced discrimination when it came to the trucking industry.
His father did.
Right? It was his father did, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, so his father did. And instead of obviously touching on the pretty crazy situation that is there, he just decided to go bootstrap mode and just be like, hey, I did this stuff.
He misrepresents what his father had to go through to get his trucking company that allowed for him to have an education, his siblings to have an education, and just downplay the entire civil rights struggle that his dad went through to get him to the position where he can now run for governor, because he wants to basically endear himself with the Trump administration and with the conservative populace.
That's pretty crazy to me, because I feel like that would be, like doing the opposite, like playing into, not even like playing into, but just talking about his father's situation would be something that would make 100 times more sense. But I guess not.
That's pretty much what I hear from my conservative family. They tell me there's no racism in America. It's just people don't want to work, and just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you can get anything done that you put your mind to. And that's ignoring all the systemic racism, all the civil rights issues we've had up until now. To act like all of that's entirely disappeared is disingenuous.
Wait, your family actually doesn't believe like racism is really a thing right now?
Yeah, the older end of my family, like me and my sister, who are like the only young people in my family, know better than this, and we look at them like they're crazy. But the rest of them are just like, yeah, there's no racism in America. They're Trump voters. They're pretty bonkers.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, I feel like it's been it's just like a really good it's been like a really good attempt from conservatives to be able to use those various methods that we were previously talking about to fatigue people about black people and their concerns. I kind of had a similar issue when I'm not sure you remember if you remember, but there was a time when there was a lot of talk about like reparations, right, for black people, and well, I guess a lot, of talk for reparations for black people, and that's been like honestly my biggest concern with stuff like that is like very large concessions on the basis of racism and like racial discrimination to any particular group, but especially something like reparations. The idea I can guarantee would be that if any real form of reparations were given to black people, there would be from that point forward no real uh like political viability or sentiment amongst the populace to give a fuck about racism anymore. Be like, we paid you for that. We paid you, shut up. And I feel like we're almost getting to the point, or like maybe we are kind of at the point where that's where a lot of people are feeling like they're at right now, where it's like, hey, we've done all this stuff, we've done all this, we don't care anymore. It's never enough. And I feel like the for lack of a better term, like woke scolding. How do you feel about like I guess the idea that, yeah, I would say this might actually be a pretty big one. How do you feel about like racism against white people? What do you feel about that?
I think it's a horrible idea. Like, why do we need to be racist against anyone?
Okay, great. Because there's like a movement that says like you can't be racist against white people, right?
Oh, I thought it was the other way around. You can't be racist against black people.
Or sorry,
No,
no, what I'm
I get
saying
what you're
is,
saying. I get what you're saying. Like, there's
yeah,
no way to be racist against white people because they're of a higher class, and it'd be punching up to be
yeah,
racist
that type of
against them.
thing. Like racism is prejudice plus power, and because black people don't have power, you can't be, or whatever group doesn't have power over white people, you can't be racist to white people. And I feel like it's not like mainstream or anything, but I feel like it's popular enough amongst communities that can be tapped into pretty readily. Like I know on TikTok, there is a fair populace that agrees with this idea, right? On Twitch, right? The Hassan, the biggest political commentator, at least until Asman overtook him, on Twitch, believes that you can't be racist to white people. Stuff like this, like that sentiment, I feel like is just, if you're just like a regular Joe Schmo white person, I feel like that'd just be infuriating. You get like a lot of the like BLM movement, you get a lot of this, a lot of that, and then like the grand conclusion is no matter what anybody does to white people, they're not racist. They can do whatever they want to white people, and they're not racist, and it's just like wearing people down. So it's just kind of like. So I'm not sure, I guess, how to deal with that or how that's really going to resolve, because I don't see that type of sentiment going away unless it's like, I don't really know how that sentiment is really going to go away, because there is an unfortunate byproduct that I feel like is happening where we've gone to the point where like marginalized people are like pedestalized amongst certain groups on the left, where they're like almost immune to any kind of criticism, because they're just sacred. Like the black people, trans people, they're immune to criticism because they're sacred. And I feel like there's just a lot of people who are kind of picking up on that, and they're just annoyed, and they're just like, I'm done. And shit like that, and I think this is a byproduct of it.
That's definitely not something that's going to help the movement and anybody's cause going forward. As you disenfranchise the people that you want to be there to help you, if you continue to treat them as if they're the grand oppressor, it's only going to get negative outcomes going forward, and no one's going to want to help anybody at that point. But at the same time, I get the narrative that there are no words like the N word that can harm white people.
Correct. Yeah.
But in general, being able to demonize anybody for whatever reason is a disgusting way to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And
good.
That would promote violence against white people as well, which I don't necessarily see happening at a rate beyond what's been happening, but I definitely wouldn't want that to be the end outcome.
Yeah. I don't see, and also to be fair, I haven't looked at the stats, but I haven't seen any, indication that there's a rise in violence against white people. You could argue maybe there's been a rise in like harassment, for like white people, because it's like, oh, you're white, you can't wear dreads, you can't do some of these things, stuff like that. You could maybe argue for stuff like that, but I haven't seen like material physical harm increase to white people. I haven't seen anything like that. But the weird part to me is it feels like unironically, white people are taking things like the Carmelo Anthony like stabbing thing and are like, this is violence against white people. I'm like, what? That's why that the guy's father, the one who died, apologies, I don't remember the one who died's name. His father, what was his name?
I'm saying I don't recall his name.
Yeah, but his father I thought was super based because his father's been approached by so many like white supremacists to be like, hey, let me use your son's dead body as like a race war jumping point. And he's always just like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you use my son as like this Nick Fuentes talking point. Because I remember seeing like several different times where he's been like approached by like obvious like rage baiting like racist people, and then he just blows them the fuck out and tells them to get away from him. And I feel like stuff like that is stuff that needs to be like signal boosted more, because that's incredible, because that guy, he had like a peak opportunity to just like mentally devolve into the like barbaric tribalist state. I mean, his son died and got stabbed, and then he's seeing like people post online that it was racially motivated, it's all of this, and he's just dialing it out. He's being like totally reasonable, and I think that's like exceptional. I think that's like an exceptional thing to do in today's age. And he's just like rejecting the money, the all of the support, material support that would come as a result of like participating in that side, and is instead just like trying to grieve his dead son. And I don't know how we tap into that more, like get more reasonable people like that who are not going to kind of just jump ship when it's either convenient or it's like really difficult convenient to stay to be against black people or non-white people, or it's like really hard to stay as like unbiased as he is.
I think that's a rare act, like to see somebody actually just be like, you know what, I'm not going to give into the media, I'm not going to give into the rage machine, I'm just going to grieve my son, and I'm not going to let you use his memory to fuel whatever it is you're trying to do. I think that's extremely respectable, and it should be broadcasted. There should be more stories about that. If we had more things like that in the news and more interviews like that going on, we would be able to differentiate the reality from the rage bait that gets thrown into the media on a daily basis.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly exceptional. That was my primary takeaway from that Carmelo Anthony story, because from my perspective for the Carmelo Anthony, just so that way I can like put it out there, my perspective was because my understanding of the events is like it was like raining, they were at a track meet, the they were Carmelo Anthony was allegedly underneath the like wrong tent for the wrong team or something, and the other kid walked up to him, was like, "Yo, you need to move," and he's like, "No, I'm not going to move," and then he tried to. He's like, I think Carmelo Anthony said something like, "Hey, don't touch me, don't fuck with me, like don't lay your hands on me or anything," and he got grabbed by the other kid and he stabbed him. And from my perspective, I don't think that would warrant a stabbing. I don't think he should have done that. However, I don't think that this is the like smoking gun crazy landmark case of like racism. This he wasn't like jumped in an alley because of some whatever nonsense or anything like that. It was just, I believe, a escalation, an inappropriate escalation that had a tragic loss of life. And that being said, it's not this like I think it was blown out of proportion.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but this specific case with this guy, the takeaway for me was how the dad and the family as a whole kind of reacted to it. That's the primary takeaway of the story, is how the incentives to kind of just be like, okay, we're going to be racist, and going away from it. That's the thing I took away from the story more than I guess all of the other stuff that people were taking away from it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't see any of that. Like, the only thing I'd seen was the mom and the surviving brother give an interview. I think it was to Fox News, and it wasn't helpful, and it wasn't really sending the same message you're telling me that the father was giving. And I wish it had been more similar to that. But I definitely don't think it was racially motivated. I think it was just an altercation between people, and somebody laid hands on him, and somebody took the extreme answer to getting hands laid on him. I think it would have been the same had it been any race of person that laid hands on him, because he came prepared to defend himself in the most extreme way possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. That's exactly what I saw because when I looked at that story, I was ready to be like, okay, we're going to see some like crazy like stuff, like the conservative media is going off about this. Is probably like just like some random stabbing or something, maybe something gang related or something. And I just read it. I was like, what? It just did not feel like it was meeting the muster of what everybody was kind of making it out to be. I think maybe what a lot of the response was, because I saw I had some people in my chat kind of try and fill me in on it. I think a lot of the response was that there was a lot of support for Carmelo Anthony, and he, like from the black community, there was a lot of support. And then so a lot of people, or supposedly there was a lot of support. I know obviously he raised a lot of money. And so like a bunch of white people were like, they think it's like some racial issue and that they're gonna get behind their guy. And then I think that was kind of what carried over into the woman, where it's like, okay, we're gonna get behind her. But yeah, I think that's what really happened. But honestly, I've never seen somebody be able to articulate it very well.
Well,
So.
for some, the right-wing rage media engine is very good at taking a one-off instance and turning it into the rule. So like the Lake and Riley situation, that was one thing that happened. You can't really come up with many more instances of what happened to Lake and Riley, but there's a bill named after her now.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will take one-off instances and propel them into more than they ever were in the first place to fuel the ideology that is pushing them forward. And this is another one of those instances, and I would hope it doesn't become full-on political, but at the same time, I can't say that it won't, with the way people are feeling about it. And I think the amount of money that came in this woman's direction is reflective of the possibility that it can turn into that, but we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That being said, the idea of like the people fatiguing on black people, I don't really see, to be frank, I don't really see a way to kind of guide the conservative base out of it really. I don't see a real way to do that from where I'm sitting. And the main reason why is just because the conservatives have kind of put themselves, like we kind of talked about with like the DEI stuff and stuff like that, they've kind of put themselves in there in lack of like actual knowledge about the material facts of the world. Um, I think we could have done better messaging with like DEI. I think we could have done like better stuff like in regards to messaging. But like where we exist right now, I'm not sure what all can be done. To be honest, like it's not very attractive for people to kind of revisit these topics. They almost feel like they're like radioactive. You like to touch DEI, people are just going to be what is it? They're going to have cognitive dissonance just because of the idea. It's like tainted, but I don't know.
I mean, it's literally the media that they consume that taints it and gives them the idea of what it is without them actually doing any research to understand how these things work. And until people are willing to actually educate themselves, you're really not going to be able to get away from that. Because I don't think people have a lot of time in the day to actually research what's actually going on, to get the details of a story. They just get whatever they scroll through their phone or whatever they play, on their YouTube, and that is the full extent of the information they get.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the case is that they're just gonna do something like that. But I feel if this is kind of the idea, then what do you see as the outcome of the like trajectory that we're at? Because in my opinion, the trajectory we're on is we're gonna get like a greater and greater kind of sense of uh like black fatigue. I don't really see that. Like I see us on a trajectory where that's going to be pretty consistent. What do you think? Do you agree with that? And if you do, like, what do you think is going to be the outcome of that?
I feel that a lot of people that are feeding into the narrative of what's going on or have the particular sentiment of feeling powerless over the last years are going to want to lash out and enforce their agency by doing things like what this woman did to this child. I got sent a video a few days ago of an Uber driver where a black woman said, "Oh, hey, can I turn around? I forgot something at home." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to have to, cancel your ride and you're going to have to call for a new ride." And she's like, "Well, I don't want to pay $13 for a new ride. I'm still going to get charged for this one. Can you just take me back?" And he just said, "You know what? You can just get out right now," and said the exact same thing that this woman said to this passenger. He called her the N-word, hard R, and said, if you're going to
Really?
act like one, I'm going to treat you like one.
Really? Over that?
Exactly.
I feel like that's a very normal request. That's like a very not like normal as an average or whatever, but that's like a non-imposing request that like that's because that what does that even mean if you're gonna because even in like concept, right, with the one chick or whatever with screaming at the kid, it's like he allegedly took stuff out of the bag, so I could see like the racist connection there. But like with this, is it like what is it black women complaining? Is that what the N-word comparison is supposed to be there? Because I totally fully believe that there's probably 100 times more white women that do that than black women. Like, oh, I forgot this. Like, you're gonna turn around, right? And then probably no issues. They just turn around and then do that. But
I think they're crappy customers of all demographics, and for some reason, the black ones seem to be the most belligerent in their minds, to feel that they don't need to take that from them. And he said the exact same thing that this woman that called this child a slur said. If he's going to act like one, I'm going to call him one. So this is the sentiment that's going forward. So then the same thing with the Piers Morgan interview where they had the trad wife chick on there, and Piers dared this woman to say the N-word. Mark Lamont Hill was like, no, you're not going to do that. This is not what we're going to do. This is going to be targeted at me. How dare you have me on your platform and let her do this? And Myron Gaines was right there pulling out, the N-word flag to endorse what this woman was doing, because they're considering this free speech that's not being allowed to them.
Yeah, how do you feel like Pierce Morgan responded to that situation? What do you think he responded appropriately, or how do you feel like he handled that? Because I feel like I have maybe a potentially controversial opinion on how he handled that.
If I take it charitably that he didn't know exactly what this woman was before he invited her on, then I can say he handled it reasonably well. But if I look at it as this was a setup and he was trying to get more eyes on what he was doing and being sensational, I think it was pretty disgusting.
So my opinion of it is that, and maybe I'm off, but I feel like he actually, when referring to that woman, I feel like he actually was kind of almost playing into the like DEI woke type and anti-DEI, anti-woke like crowd by calling her like racist a little bit too soon, and kind of heavy-handedly almost like cracking down on like very like jumping on calling her racist too quickly. Like I forget the exact line of dialogue, but I think he said something like, have you said the N-word before? And she was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you're just like an unapologetic like racist after that. I'm like, hold on. Like, I feel like just saying you've said the N-word before and just saying like, okay, you're racist for all of time. Like, you need a little bit more legwork to be like, okay, some of your other opinions, some of this, like stuff like that. Like, I've met people who have said the N-word before, like white people who have said the N-word before, who like have maybe not even just that they've said the N-word before. I've met white people who've used the N-word offensively before, and have like come around to be like, oh man, that was not a good point in my life, man. Like, hey, that was grim, bro. Hey, some dark days, but and they're chilling now. And it felt very much like a pearl clutchy almost response from Pierce Morgan to me, where I felt like he was just a little bit too quick, and it was kind of like it came off as him trying to be like, oh, I'm going to call her racist. Like, oh, I got her. And maybe I'm just being a little too nitpicky, because frankly, when it comes to situations like that, I tend to be. Because of situations like this, I try to be really careful about when I'm calling somebody racist. I really want to make sure that I communicate very well that they're racist, because I am trying to avoid coming off that way. I'm trying to avoid coming off in a manner that I know everyone's eager for me to come off as, which is just some crazy guy calling everything racist, calling everything like a microaggression or something like that. So I want to really be careful. And I don't know if I'm just doing that with Pierce Morgan or what, but yeah, it just felt like he was just a little bit like when she was like, oh yeah, I have no problem with like using the N-word and calling people the N-word. Then I'd be like, okay, all right. Like, that's pretty agree. Like, if you're just going to be like, yeah, you know what? I have no problem calling, people, black people the N-word or stuff like that. It's like, come on. It's like, there's not really much defending that.
It definitely seemed like, and this is what I'm saying, if I was not being charitable and I'm being extremely charitable, saying he knew nothing, he was definitely jumping the gun, but he was trying to give solid pushback. If I'm being uncharitable and looking at it as I expect it was, and it was being performative, he had that loaded in the chamber and he was just waiting for her to admit that she uses the N-word, knowing full well that she uses the N-word. And that I don't think helps anything at all. And definitely for anybody that would have been sympathetic to her, became more sympathetic at that point. And for the person that brought this to my attention, he is all for white people being able to say the N-word. He was like, look at how much Mark Lamont Hill is whinging at this point. See, black people can't control their emotions when they hear this word. You see how he just flipped out, and it's like,
Yep.
that's exactly what they want.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I was like, I want to, because I feel like based on this conversation, I would imagine you're in a similar position where when issues of like racism come up, you like really tighten up and you're like, okay, I know that people are going to look at me as like an example of like the worst caliber if I don't perform like near perfectly here. Like you have to perform exceptionally in that situation because you will be used forever as like, oh yeah, that crazy black person that overreacted when I even brought up the idea of saying the N-word, and stuff like that. But if you, God forbid, if you do well and you actually like give a really informed and whatever answer, like that, they don't really care. They're like pushing that aside. Okay, not a big deal. So it's just that very annoying idea that you have to be on guard because you have to perfectly represent some specific position is really, really annoying. But yeah, I feel like I saw a lot of that online, kind of like what you're talking about, where he's like, because he was freaking out, people were like, yep, black people can't control themselves. Like, see? And it's just one dude, and then everybody they're just like, hey, this is pure evidence, nothing to be done. Pack it in. We've done our research.
I don't appreciate that we don't get the juxtaposition that the person that is saying the N-word, especially to be inflammatory, is also not keeping their composure and is being completely irrational. But when the black person gets upset or has a problem with it, all of a sudden it's our inability to regulate our emotions. I can understand to a degree if we were to like, punch someone in the face over it or get into a fight. That I would say is uncalled for. It's a word, do what you got to do, get this person fired, whatever, like depending on what the situation is. Like with the dude that was the Uber driver, by all means, give him a 1 star, a half a star, or no stars, report him. I hope he's not driving for anybody anymore going forward, because that's the whole point of why racists wore their hoods in the first place, because they wanted to continue to get business while doing horrible things in the background. So that should be the consequence of being discriminatory. You're screwing with the corporation's bag, and that can't be tolerated. But all the same, you should be able to let it be known that you're offended by someone who's clearly trying to offend you without losing your cool or making that a display of being unable to control your emotions.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that fine dance that you have to play. That's an unfortunate. It's just really annoying, but that's just the unfortunate reality is that you just have to be exemplary in your response. You have to perform at such a high level. While in this case, this woman just gets to say literally whatever the fuck she wants, and just like there's no negative consequence there. The people are just like, oh, okay. Because I don't see really like a lot of coverage from any of the conservative people who claim that they care about, like, because there's conservative pundits that claim that they care about like people using the N-word against like black people and stuff like that. There's people who, the pundits who claim to care. I didn't see any of their coverage being like, hey, this chick saying that is not good and she should be ashamed of herself. Not really. It's more of just like, oh, wow, man, watch this guy freak out at this chick saying that. So it's just like very, very fake, manufactured shit, I feel like, from these people.
So 2 things on that. For some reason now, it's trying to be normalized that doing hateful things is freedom of speech. Like you got Elon Musk giving Nazi salutes, you got people saying slurs, you have, people, well, I mean, same thing goes with Kanye busting out what he did, and some people were singing along to that and they got canceled. So like all around, they're trying to normalize hateful things to be just part of the zeitgeist as it is. And I think that's disgusting. But to what you're saying, the initial meaning of black fatigue was the fatigue that black people had from trying to keep their guard up and not lash out when horrible things are done to them. So like the idea of, be nonviolent, Rosa Parks kind of situation, what Bill Cosby was saying, like we always have to be the most exemplary at all times. And if we aren't, we're doing ourselves a disservice as a people. And that was what black fatigue initially meant. And it's now being warped.
Mm. I see. So, I actually didn't know that, but that as a concept, like I mean, I totally understand and can get behind and can be agreeable with the idea that like um that can be rather exhausting. I mean, so much so that I will like surround myself with people or topics, talk about topics and engage with ideas that really um don't really have I don't have to be concerned about that, right? Like I'm not going to be as talking about as many things that I feel like I have to be super buttoned up about. And I'm very thankful to the fact that I don't always have to engage with those topics because it is annoying. It's a very annoying experience. But I also think that because there is a group of people that very distinctly disagree with me about like the response to, for instance, like you can be racist to white people. And I do agree that the racism towards white people is not going to be as impactful, generally speaking, as it is going to be to black people, right? Obviously, if there's some crazy black person who's like going through the street saying, "Oh, I'm going to harm like white people physically," and then they take up like a weapon, which like doesn't really happen, but like something like that. Obviously, we can talk about levels here, but in general, the vast majority of the time, racism against white people is not going to be the same as racism against black people. Racism, yeah, against white people is not going to be the same against black people. But I'm, and the people with a different perspective on that are going to be the ones who are like spearheading all of the conversations. There's a controversy going on right now with like Dean Withers and stuff with the Unfuck America tour. I don't know if
I did hear
do you know about that?
Yeah,
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Microaggression.
Yeah, the microaggression.
I think it's extremely reactionary and kind of disgusting. Like it's a blink and you miss it moment that they're willing to destroy an entire movement because somebody was felt to be out of line toward a minority.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that highlights the reason why it's so difficult to get a leftist movement going in America.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Sounds like we're really dialed in on a similar page here. But yeah, it's stuff like that, and I feel like that group that is very concerned with that microaggression and think that it's like worthy of totally destroying this woman's reputation over, is or attempting to, I guess I should say, is I feel like I should be engaging in these conversations because that's where I can do like something. I have some impact there if I use my voice for it. But God, it's just so exhausting talking about that stuff all the time. I would much rather catalog all of the million authoritarian things that Trump is doing. That's like far more like interesting to me. It feels like really pressing right now and stuff. But there has to be a kind of counterbalance to that that kind of opinion on like racism and bigotry inside of the country, so we can actually, do something with
what the Trump administration is doing is the core of the disease, and a lot of these things that are bubbling up are symptoms of the disease that are spreading. And we're seeing destabilization with the people, the way we interact with each other, as well as the institutions that service us. And so it's very difficult not to pay attention to the core of the issue while all these little fires keep coming up all over the place. And I can understand white people feeling that their concerns with people feeling that they can demonize them not being taken seriously or addressed is something that would become daunting. Like, I think that sucks. If we say something is happening to us, we expect it to be addressed. I would think it should be the same for them. So this is going to continue to cause division until it is addressed. But to what degree can it be addressed is like what I actually wonder at this point.
Yeah. If I'm being realistic, I think really the only thing that would make any kind of sense that could reverse the trend that we're seeing with kind of the prevailing idea that people are getting tired of like listening to Black people's issues and complain is a massive retaliation and information campaign about things like DEI, about like all these different things, which would just require it would require a very significant like effort by like a person or a group of people that would somehow garner but this is kind of like the problem is it's difficult to garner popularity and like a stake in a large nationwide conversation with these opinions because they're just not very sexy opinions. The sexy opinion is that you can't be racist to white people and fuck white people because it's very controversial. It gets a bunch of people's eyes on it. And then it's also very, attractive to be like, actually, Black people are really annoying. And like, actually, I'm done with them. If you act like an N-word, I'm going to call you one. Like this, it's very, very difficult to have like a more reasonable approach and then have people like want to invite you to do things, be on podcasts and stuff like that. Or get like a real presence on a national stage. It's very, very difficult. So I don't even know how to best go about that, to be honest.
I can understand that. Well, it's been about an hour, and usually I have these conversations go for about an hour. So if you need a dip, I completely understand. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and open up the conversation to anybody that may have thoughts. So if you wanted to stick around, please do.
Stick around for a bit. I got like 10 more minutes, 20 more minutes before I should probably eat the food that I got.
Oh, nice. What you got?
Some McDonald's that's a little old. It's a little bit old.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, so
that's brutal.
Yeah, but it's good.
Welcome, Zephyr.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yep.
Sorry, I have a video in the background. Like, let me turn that off. How's it going?
So far, so good. I
Going
think
well.
It's been a good conversation.
Well, first of all, really, I want to say, like, I really respect your content. You know, you're one of the few people in Twitch poll, including Leethy here, that, definitely give. How do I want to say? I'm a little high, so sorry if I. I'm not completely coherent. But yeah, it's like different takes, unique opinions. So really respect that. It's not generic. So yeah. Okay. One thing I wanted to bring up regarding Black fatigue, and this Black fatigue, I'm talking about society in general, I guess, getting tired of some issues being brought up again and again, would be, I would bring up movies. Like, there's been a shift in recent times over the past like 7-8 years or so, where you see a lot of Black characters getting pushed in movies. Like in Marvel movies, you have a Black Captain America. You got an Ironheart trailer that came out a few days ago that generally are not well-made movies, and so it appears that they are being made just for sort of social credit, quote unquote, and not really to make good movies. Which, yeah, you could say that the first few years of Marvel were really good, and that is like the examples of people sort of getting tired of the woke agenda in that aspect, and then sort of learn it getting just snowballed in from what they hear on the news. So what are your takes on that? Do you think
that those? My bad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh yeah, I was
I
just
just had
kind
a
of wrapping
question. I
up.
just had a question about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
go
just had a
for it.
question about that. Do you think that because we know now that the freaking TV series Ironheart was made like 4 years ago, and
Yeah.
they knew it was going to be trash, so they never released it, right?
Mhm.
And Captain America, like the question that I have is, do you think that these shows with black lead actors, et cetera, are failing because of some sort of agenda to push, like push some sort of narrative, or well, let me rephrase that. Do you think that it's because the actors are black, or is it because there's such a shitty fucking job in the execution process of making this content that people can kind of like people aren't stupid. They can kind of internalize this and like, what the fuck is this? Like why was this made? Who was this
Yep.
even made for?
I think it started out with the latter, but now it's slowly becoming the former. So in my opinion, I think it started out as like a few people made too many movies with minority leads that did not have like good dialogue or good story, and then over time, now people just associate like lead actors that are minorities with bad movies.
Yeah.
What do you think, Riley?
Okay, I can agree with that.
I would agree with that assertion, and I think movies is a good kind of barometer for like media is a pretty good barometer for this type of thing as well, where
100%.
people will make excuses for bad movies,
Being
bad
stupid at
whatever.
their job.
Yeah,
For
as
being
like
shit at their fucking job. Like you
yeah,
have
so
one job. You're
like
supposed to
Well,
be
let him
like you're
finish up
spending
his
all of
statement. You kind of cut him off.
Okay, my bad. I was
so
about to
like an
cut you off.
example that I have is the Star Wars movies, the most recent Star Wars movies, where
Bro, you
so many
speaking my
people
language?
so many people blame that on the woman lead. It's like, no, it's just, I'm sorry, those movies weren't good. Just like in what they're just not good movies. As I promise you, you replace Ray with the dude, it's not a good movie. It's and their argument is like, well, no, they were so concerned with making the woman like the lead, and it's like nothing about that movie to me says that it was essential that it was like the idea that they wanted to cast a woman that made them like steer the story, steer the writing, all these things where the movies fell short in that specific direction, right? Where it would fall short. It was just not a good movie, and it happened to have a woman lead. And for like a kind of counterbalance to that is, I think a lot of people, and especially a lot of people more recently, really like Rogue One. Rogue One is a really good movie, in my opinion.
Have you seen Andor season 2 yet?
Yeah, I literally
No
like
spoilers. I have not
week,
seen it yet. Shut the fuck
no
up.
spoilers. No spoilers.
My
but
man.
I went through Andor and then I rewatched Rogue One at the end of it. It's a good movie.
Yes,
like
sir.
it's a solid movie. It has a woman lead, right? Solid movie. But I don't hear like where is the kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Where's the shit where it's like, hey, they decided to make a woman lead and movie was good, but we're just not going to talk about it because the movie was good. We'll talk about it if it's bad, but we're not going to talk about it if it's good.
Well, before you go, Mando, I want to point out something that's like kind of not being touched on. So you have movies like Black Panther, which was pretty much well received. You have movies like Blade, and people were happy when Blade showed up in the Deadpool movie. Like you have all these instances of movies that were well made with black actors in them, but then when you have a studio half-ass it and put out just basically a cash grab or underdevelop a script, all of a sudden the creators that like to talk about things on a racial level want to bring that up to be the main reason why this thing failed. Can it not just be
Yeah.
a bad movie?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
The-
the whole logic that they use behind that is that they start digging into, okay, who wrote it, who produced it, who directed it, and then they start digging into these individuals' ideologies, start digging into the ideologies of the companies, et cetera, et cetera. And based on all of that information, you can kind of see a pattern, right? You can kind of see a pattern. Okay, Black Panther did well. Why did it do well? Oh, it was because we had a black lead and black actors and et cetera, et cetera. And so they, in their mind, they start trying to justify making more movies like that because they believe, right? A lot of these creators who are in charge of like writing, character design, and directing in these situations are very ideologically driven. And so they attribute the success to all of the things that the people who enjoy the content don't care about. They attribute it to race, they attribute it to gender, they attribute it to sexuality, but no one who enjoys that shit doesn't care. Ahsoka is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Has nothing to do with she's a woman. Nothing to do with it.
The
Has to do
show
with
was
her character
bad.
arc and
The
what's
show was bad.
the show was okay until like the later episodes, and then I'm right there. Like, what the fuck is this? What is this? But like some of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and like newsflash for certain individuals who are like really anti-Disney, like Rey wasn't the first Disney princess. She wasn't even a fucking Disney princess. But Leia was the first princess. She was literally a legitimate princess in Star Wars. She was the boss bitch. She was the bad. She was literally more capable than Luke Skywalker, her twin brother. That is undeniable. That is objectively true. George Lucas has said that tons of times. Tons of times. So the whole thing about Disney buying it and then trying to push like females to the forefront, etc., on some Disney princess agenda narrative, maybe, but it doesn't really track that way, right? It just seems like they hired individuals who were supposed to be creative, but they suck at their job, so they suck at being creative. And so what they do when people we totally see examples of it now. Look at Bungie. A bunch of individuals who are supposed to be like professionals and experts suck at being creative, and so they steal ideas from other people and plagiarize. That's why the sequel sucked. Because all of the directors spent all of their time trying to plagiarize some shit that George Lucas already did, and then kind of manipulate it to make it seem like it was their idea. So they could say, I did it better than George Lucas, or I can write these characters better than George Lucas. I can do Star Wars better than the guy who created Star Wars.
Mm, For the most part, like I would say they're just dumbing this down to the parts rather than the whole of what they're trying to put
Yeah.
forward. So you would want to put like you said earlier, their sexuality, their gender, their race, all these things on the forefront and think this is going to be what makes people want to see this movie because people want to feel represented. People want to feel represented in something that is good, not in something that is trash.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
100%. 100%.
Because I think
I
if
feel more
what was
akin-
that Assassin's Creed game where they did the Yasuo thing? The recent
The
Assassin's
what? You
Creed,
talking about the newest one? You
the
talking
Black
about
Samurai.
the newest?
Oh,
You talking
yeah.
about Yasuke? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing. If it was a great game,
The whole thing is
I
like a
wouldn't have
slap in the
cared.
fucking face. It's full of fucking stereotypes. Like every time Yasuke fights, the Japanese music turns to like hip hop Japanese music. Like
Really?
what is this supposed to mean?
Yeah, if
What
they'd have
is
made it a
what are
great
you telling me?
game,
What
would not
message are
even
you
have
trying
mattered.
to send to me? Yeah, like what message are you trying to send me? You're saying that this is supposed to be like feudal Japan, but like you're putting this individual in front of and also putting all of these stereotypes to basically remind me every step of the way that he's a black samurai. Like, I know he's a black samurai. You don't have to keep fucking reminding me.
Could that have just been a joke that people didn't take well because they're too up in their feels?
True, 100%, 100%. But it can also be a pattern, though. Like, why did you change the music for Yasuke to be like Japan hip hop whenever he starts fighting? Also, isn't it kind of weird that a black guy is running around Japan killing Japanese people?
I hadn't
Like,
thought
isn't
about it
that
that
kind
way.
of weird? Isn't that kind of weird? Isn't that kind of people
Well,
love to virtue signal and like wave their fingers about racism, but isn't that kind of racist?
my issue
In
comes
the
down to more
fucking
so.
Japan. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My issue comes down to more so people being so up in arms because it's a black character. This thing isn't
100.
historically accurate. Have any of these games
Who
been
cares?
historically accurate?
When the fuck was see that's when people start giving themselves away as being tourists for these franchises. Well, it's not historically accurate. Hello, when has Assassin's Creed ever been
There is
historically accurate?
there is definitely like I want to say like subconscious, but it feels very overwhelming that if it's a black character, they definitely get much harsher
Yeah.
criticism compared to pretty much any other race. Like the Minecraft movie, the black actress in that one.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know if any of you watch like the sort of right wing media criticism sphere of like Critical Drinker and like Heels v Babyface and all those idiots. Every single wallpaper that they have about the yeah, like when they would review the Minecraft movie, they would put the like a zoomed in, you know, one of those like you pause at a random frame and nobody looks good. It's just ugly. And the ugly person, they would zoom into the face of the black woman at an ugly frame and put that as their thumbnail. It's like, okay, there's Jason Momoa in that movie. There's Jack Black in that movie. There's like 3 kids in that movie. Why do you want to single out the black woman?
It's kind of like reverse identity politics, right? It's not
Yeah.
they have it set up, and it's not they're not using the arguments genuinely, right? They're using it when they want to use it to serve a purpose. In my opinion, they're trying to serve a purpose of attacking
about a
identity
narrative.
politics only when they
all
want
about
to do it, right? It's not genuine.
Yeah, it's almost seems like it's performative. I think Rel was talking about this earlier. It doesn't seem authentic. It doesn't seem genuine, right? Like the individuals who are the most offended, like where it just doesn't seem consistent with like their past. It doesn't seem consistent with their ideology at all. It just seems like it's the popular thing to do right now, right? They're a part of a group and that group holds that position. And so they have to hold that position in order to have social credibility.
You know, a number of people didn't buy what was it, Battlefield 1, I think, because they came up
They
with
told us not to buy it, bro. They told us
like
not to buy
there
it.
was a female on the cover, right? And they're like, well, that's not accurate, blah
Yeah,
blah blah. And
that's not
the
accurate.
reverse, you know, they're training people to hate anything that a minority is on the cover with, a gay person on the cover with, a woman's on the cover with. Um, they're training people to, and then when it comes suits their purpose, they're calling identity politics and everything else.
I mean, I don't think that's true, right? Because we can
It's true.
see some successes. We can see some successes, right? I think most people see the thing that they do when they're pushing a lot of this content that's like narrative driven is they push a lot of the images to try and gain some sort of like interest from the audience, but the things that they put in the trailer, the people that they put in front of a camera and in front of a microphone to talk about the story, to talk about the fucking characters, the actresses and actors who play these characters, who do interviews, like we can all see it. And so you're not doing yourself any favors when you put individuals in front of like cameras and microphones during an interview and have them ask questions about the content that's being made. And all of their questions, yeah, it's like all of their questions are like ideologically driven, my bad. Right? It's all driven by their own personal
No,
ideology.
so Mando,
So
what
they
you're doing
respond the
is
same way.
you're doing the same thing that those reviewers do. It's just like you'll have literally dozens of interviews, and they'll pick out snippets that
Yeah.
kind of prove their point, right? Like, so it's not like, oh, it happens every time. It's just that, yeah, when you make a compilation of like tens of interviews, which all like every single clip has been clipped out and just put them together, then yeah, you feel like, oh, it's happening everywhere.
Well, if someone is telling me in an interview, if I'm watching, and some of this stuff I see because I'm interested in some of this stuff, right? Like I was interested in the Acolyte. I was interested in the Acolyte until I found out who was directing it, right? And her background, like what the fuck? But anyway, I don't necessarily get my opinions from interviewers. And if I sound like I'm saying the same things as them, it's because I'm just recognizing the exact same pattern in the things that I'm seeing, if that makes sense. Right? Like if I'm watching an interview with someone and they're talking about the Acolyte, right? I'm like, well, nerds are gay. And if you are a nerd, or if you don't like being gay, or if you have something against gay people, this isn't for you. It's like, what? 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 Why would you say some shit like that? Like, how? What audience are you appealing to? What audience are you trying to like put into your net when you're making these comments, right? Like Rosario Dawson is very progressive. Have you ever seen her do any sort of interview in regards to like playing Ahsoka where she pushes her ideology? No, never. Never, 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 never.
I
No
think
one brings up the fact that
the
Rosario
snippet.
Dawson is black. No one brings up the fact that Rosario Dawson is black. No one says
He was a
the
Twi'lek.
Ahsoka series is woke. Yeah, no one says the Ahsoka series is woke because Rosario Dawson plays in it or Rosario Dawson is a Democrat. Most people don't even know she's a Democrat. Most people don't even know she's progressive unless you follow her on like Twitter and shit because she doesn't let that kind of poison the well of what she's trying to do, right? She's an artist, she's an actor, and she's playing a character, and she's trying to appeal to the fans, and she's trying to appeal to a target audience. And her ideology has nothing to do with that. People criticize the Ahsoka series, not because Rosario Dawson's a woman, not because she's black. They criticize it because the last fucking 4 episodes suck dick. Like, what the fuck is this? Does that make sense?
I mean, it'd be pretty easy for people that are against her, what her politics would be, considering who she dated. She was dating Cory Booker for a while. I'm sure some people may know that, may not know it. They may not tie it to that. But the idea that they're not portraying a character in a racial aspect because she is a particular race from the Star Wars universe, it doesn't come to the forefront in the same way. I would think if you put that makeup on anybody, the last thing they're going to think about is racial connotation. So like as soon as the Twi'lek ears come on and the paint hits, like you're not really thinking about that anymore. But they still for sure could hate on people she's
Excuse
dated
me,
or people
sir.
she's been with.
You are totally misrepresenting her character. Ahsoka is not a fucking Twi'lek. Get it right. She's a Chagruda. Hello.
Okay. Okay. My bad.
I'm busting your balls. I'm busting your balls.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I
Don't you
think
fucking
that's
mischaracterize Ahsoka?
that's what continues to perpetuate the idea that white people are being attacked and disenfranchised because all of these people focus on the racial aspect of these things, and a lot of them tend to be bad. It's like, well, had it been anybody but them, we wouldn't be having this, and it perpetuates the rage engine. So
But bro, it always seems like they only focus on it when it's beneficial for them to focus on.
isn't that
But
the
it's all
point?
based on a lie,
Like
right?
Rel was talking about it earlier. Rel was talking about it earlier. In most situations, if you were to do like street interviews and you were to ask like well-educated black college students if it's possible for black people to be racist against white people, the majority of them would tell you no.
I mean, because they've been told kind of a stupid thing, right? I kind of said in the chat, like, racism, like systemic racism cannot happen without power, right? But what
Yeah.
is basic racism can happen to anybody
Yes.
because it's just based
Yes.
on what their
Fundamentally.
intent is.
Yeah.
So like if
Fundamentally
there's no
speaking.
power, like if a black owned business didn't hire white people because they hate white people, then
Yeah.
that is racist. If they hired black people only because they're their friends, that wouldn't be racist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about discrimination and prejudice based on race. That is the fundamental definition, objectively speaking, of what racism is. Now, are there different levels of racism? Sure, we can get into the weeds on that. But you
Well,
can't have systemic racism without racism fundamentally first. Like you have to
well,
have the fundamentals first.
I do want to kind of comment on because I think a lot of people struggle with. I even heard like Lactoid in a politics panel the other day saying something was racist, and like so, if you look at the say affirmative action, taking jobs from white people given to black people, right? What makes that different from racism?
Exactly.
And it's essentially the same thing as like white people not giving jobs to black people. But the problem, the difference is the intent. What was the intent of the people? Was the intent to not include white people because they hate them, or was the intent to include a group of
Oh,
people, right? And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to figure out
yeah, I think,
until they think
yeah, I
about it a
think,
long
yeah,
time. And
yeah.
when people like Lactoid misrepresent what is racism not
It's
intentionally
lactoid.
to try to
It's
push a
lactoid.
point, people can't argue back against it because they don't understand that the intent has to be there to exclude someone because they don't like them, not to include other people. Like Kitanya Brown, who got, Biden wanted to have the very first black woman Supreme Court justice, right? And they call that racist because, you know, people cannot argue against that because they don't understand that it's about the intent. They
Yeah.
people know like down deep, but they can't voice it in an argument.
No, that's exactly what I was going to get at, and you nailed it. When people talk about Biden saying he's going to get a black Supreme Court justice and it's going to be a woman, same thing goes with Kamala Harris being, he wanted a black vice president. When it's a white person, you don't have to call the shot. You just know what they're already looking for. So would you call Mike Pence a DEI hire because he was definitely looking for an evangelical? So when they apply the
Mhm.
idea of DEI, it's done completely lopsided. And when it's not in their favor, it becomes something to point out. When in reality, he was looking
Yeah.
for a qualified person. And if there wasn't a qualified person that could take that position that is black, then I guarantee a black person wouldn't have got the position. But apparently, there are
I
black
have a
people that can get these positions.
I have a question on that. Do you think that Kamala Harris and Brown Jackson would have been better received if Biden just hadn't said anything? If he just said, "Oh yeah, I have Kamala as my vice president."
Oh, absolutely. The fact that he said it
Like I know the
removed
right
all
is always
plausible
going to make fun of
deniability.
whoever's the
I mean, there's
yeah.
always going to be people who are going to complain because they're going to bring up her history. You know what I mean? They're going to bring up her history. They're going to bring up like all of the pros and cons, etc., in her career. So they're going to bring those things up regardless of whether or not Biden announced it or not. But him announcing it, I think that if you are, if it's your fucking business, right? If you are the leader and you say, "Hey, I'm going to do this," then it's okay. Hey, I'm going to hire a black woman because we've never had that, and I'm going to be the president who's going to make that happen. I don't see anything wrong with that. He's the fucking president.
Or you can say, well, it's perfect. You can say that, a black woman could be hired and then hire white men for the next, 100 years and act like nothing's wrong.
Yeah, you could do the exact opposite. Like just say something, or just say that like you're for the black community and you're for equal rights and you're for inclusion, and then do the exact opposite for fucking 8 years. Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama.
All right. I'm probably gonna head out.
If you want to give yourself a shout out, and thank you again for the amazing conversation. I appreciate your time.
Later, bro.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
love
for
your
appreciate
being
content,
here.
you.
bro. I love your
Your
fucking
time,
content.
bro.
You're very well read. You do a lot of fucking research, and you're pretty based in your video game selection. Before you go, can I
Hey,
ask you a
let's
question?
go.
Are you gonna play Chronos Odyssey?
Am I gonna play what?
Chronos Odyssey.
Probably not. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't really play video games as much anymore. I really. If you see me playing a
Became
video game on
filthy
stream,
fucking
that's pretty much the
casual.
only time I do it.
He played
Okay.
WoW. He's
He's no
already
longer
burnt
woke.
out. WoW destroyed it for him.
He's no longer woke. Fucking filthy casual.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately been reduced to this. Okay, it's
It's okay.
it's not willing. That's for sure. Okay. I'll see you guys later. I am irrelevant though. Relevant on all platforms. Okay, it was good talking to you, Kai. I will talk to you later. Okay.
Peace out, my dude.
All right. Bye bye.
Hey, Rel. Bro, Rel is so fucking based. That's so fucking cool you having him on your fucking platform, bro.
I mean, I'm glad he was willing to
In
come
my
through.
opinion, he doesn't get enough. He does not get enough exposure, in my opinion.
I'm glad to have him come on about something that doesn't have to do with the space, because like he's far better informed than most of the people that end up on panels. Like I was on a WIC panel with him, and I've seen him on WIC panels, and he's very in depth. He's very clear in how he addresses things. So like to have a conversation with him versus somebody that is being reactionary to the situation, I think was a lot better. Because I
You
mean,
both made really good points.
I could have had Fnatic on, and it could have been like extra fiery.
That sounds like fucking cancer, bro. Like you're not even gonna get a chance to fucking speak. You might as well just be the moderator and just like let him speak and then bring in callers.
No, Fnatic
You're
does
not
let
even
people
gonna get a
talk.
chance to speak.
I mean, he definitely does.
You
You just
just
got to
can't
make sure
interrupt
he gets. Yeah, do not interrupt him. It will not end well for you.
Yeah. Do you think that by itself it is racist for anyone who is not black to say the N-word? And I ask this because I grew up in the inner city where black people said the N-word, Latinos said the N-word, Chinese people, like my Chinese
Hey,
N-words were
thanks for the
saying the
raid,
N-word.
Irrelevant.
Like,
Appreciate it.
oh shit.
W raid.
The white people that were in the neighborhood
Quit
were
saying bad
also
things about
saying,
him. No.
yeah, the white people that were in my neighborhood were also saying the N-word because we all saw them as N-words too. Right? So is it by itself racist to call for anyone who is not black to say the N-word?
No, not inherently.
I think
That's kind of what the issue is. It creates a weird double standard where you have a pass in one area, yet not in another. So if you're not at home, yet you're used to using this language, it may not be as well received. But when it's a black person, it's
Okay.
usually going to be well received, even though it shouldn't necessarily be. If that makes
it
sense.
goes back to my definition about intent, right? What is the intent of the person? It's kind of like I heard someone say, blackface by its nature is automatically racist, and it's like it's not automatically racist, but
Not
what's the
automatic,
intent of the
100%.
person,
Yeah,
right? And I hope like in 100 years, like someone can dress up as their favorite person, character, or something like that, and a black person in whiteface, a white person in blackface, and just be the character, and no one even considers it being racist at all.
So like in Japan, like cosplaying is a huge fucking thing. So when Japanese people cosplay as like Black Panther, is that racist?
I mean, you can
You know
still
what I
do
mean?
Black
If
Panther without
Japanese
putting on
people want to
makeup.
cosplay as Blade, you know what I mean? If Japanese people want to cosplay as Blade, is that racist?
No, but I won't respect it unless they have the high top fade.
I mean, that's the
So,
you
but
got to be. It's got to be true to the source material, obviously.
So there's
but
a
like answer
tradition.
the
Oh, go ahead.
question. Well, is that to the question if a person who lives in an area and says the N word and it's accepted, they're not meaning it with the intent, the racist intent, and it's accepted by everyone around them, then they're probably not racist. They could be down deep somewhere, but like, you go to some place where it's not a norm, and it doesn't mean that they're automatically racist, but in some situations, it's a pretty good indicator.
Well, I mean, if you grow up in New
Yeah.
York and you say it around people that you grew up in the boroughs with, and then you come to LA for a weekend and you're in Compton and you say it, you may end up with a problem. And
Yeah.
that's the
You
issue
may you
of
may have some issue.
the word itself probably just needs to be removed from the vernacular because it's the only slur that gets
100%.
used in that way. But I don't see that happening based on people's attachment to it and the history of this country. But
Yeah.
to get back to the blackface thing, there's have you ever heard of Black Peter?
No.
So there's
No.
a tradition in I want to say it's the Netherlands, and their version of Santa Claus has a helper, which is basically somebody that looks like caricatures of black people back in the South. And they call him Black
Oh
Peter,
shit.
and he's the one that black bags kids when they don't act right and delivers punishments on Santa Claus's behalf. So every
Oh
time you
wait,
get
so they have a whole different representation of like the fucking dude, the goat dude who like beats the shit out of
yeah,
fucking
it's pretty much
kids.
like Krampus. So
Yeah.
every year around Christmas time, you got a bunch of people out there that throw on their blackface and put on their Black Peter gear, and this is starting to be viewed more and more every year as unacceptable, and their society is pushing back against it. And I don't necessarily think it's their intention to denigrate black people. It's just a tradition that
Yeah.
they've had for a very long time. So I think this
Yeah.
is something we have to address rather than trying to scold people out of this behavior, like to let people know, like, hey, this is insensitive to X amount of people. Maybe we want to work on these traditions or these ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe informing
Instead of
black
like trying to
people,
guilt trip people. Yeah. Like
yeah,
instead of trying to
like
guilt trip
informing black
people.
people to not feel that they're being attacked by this depiction, the same as saying, hey, you may be making people feel uncomfortable, can go in both directions.
100%. Yeah. Agreed.
Yes, Kyle, the Dutch have a problematic history with black folks. It's entirely out of
Oh
nowhere,
shit.
straight out of the blue, came and caught us all by surprise. We were shocked and appalled.
I mean,
Yeah, Austin Powers 3 call it out, right?
yeah,
Austin Powers dad just hates the Dutch.
bro.
And that's probably a big reason why.
I mean,
Absolutely.
let's be honest. The Dutch and the Polish, like they're fucking like when people talk about like how the United States is closing the borders and how what we're currently doing is kind of wrong and inhumane. True from a certain standpoint, right? But on the same sense, some of those same people will be like, well, we should look at places like Poland and structure our society off of Poland. And Poland are shooting people at their fucking borders if you try and cross. No questions asked. Nothing. Like they don't give a fuck who you are. Man, woman, it don't fucking matter. You try and cross the border illegally, they shoot you in the face.
I think part of the Europe or they're part of. I mean, don't they have like free passing the borders if you have the European passport or something?
I
A
mean, for the
European
most
You
part,
passport?
have
it's
to go
anybody
through,
that's
well, you
not
have
from
to
the
go through
EU.
certain, they have certain entry points, right? Just like the United States has certain entry points across the border that you have to go through, you have to check in, et cetera, et cetera. Poland has the same thing, right? It's not like they're shooting people at those checkpoints. They're shooting people who are trying to jump over the fucking fence or jump over barbed wire and shit to get into the fucking country illegally. Just mowing them down. Like, no
So
questions asked.
has there been a heavy level of fear mongering about the border with them?
I'm not entirely sure. Not entirely sure.
'Cause it's
To
something
be
that I've
honest, I
been.
don't.
I mean, currently they have tensions
Well,
with
to be honest, I
Russia.
don't know a whole lot about. Yeah, but to be honest, I don't know. Well, it seems like the majority of people that they're shooting are Muslims, and I could be wrong, but that's like the link that I was sent about what was going on in regards to Poland's border and how they are handling their border. Like, seems like the majority of people that they're shooting are Muslims who are trying to cross the border into Poland illegally.
Man, you got to have good sight for that, don't you?
Yeah, you got to look at
Yeah.
the
Well, it's one of
regions
the.
and how these things work out. Like they currently have tensions with Russia. They're currently worried about espionage and other issues that happen. Like same thing they say, well, the Norwegian countries are the happiest countries on the planet, but you have to look at the way those countries are structured.
But,
And this is why they had
yeah,
issues with the
but,
immigration that went through with the refugees and everything else, because it drastically changed the way their country operates. And you can't
yeah,
expect everybody to act like America. America was built on bringing people in. Bring us, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor. We lost track of that. Our country was set up to be that. Their country never was.
true.
What was the plot again? Was it the Constitution or I
The
get
plot
confused.
was to, well, the plot was, the plot was fun. And then we got to a point where like the industrial revolution took over. And these corporations realized that it's very expensive to pay Americans to fucking work because we want to get paid. And it's very cheap to hire someone who's like an illegal immigrant to do the exact same work that an American can do, but for like not even half the price, like less than half the fucking price.
That feels like a subplot. I mean, like the overarching plot. I feel like what were we trying to do? I feel like we had a mission and then we kind
Well,
of,
I think the mission was to allow, to basically create a society where anyone is welcome. Anyone is welcome, and everyone has an opportunity to do something great. You have the freedom in this country to do whatever your heart desires, as long as it doesn't affect your neighbor or your community or the society in a negative way, right? In most
I can
cases,
sign up for
that's,
that.
yeah. And that's why most people are. It's like, like even like the European, like my buddies in the UK are like, Americans are so fucking stupid. Look at your education system. It's like, you do realize like you have an iPhone in your hand? Like you're using Windows 11 right now, aren't you? Well, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Just saying. Yeah, but what about like all of these like really powerful, Europeans? Oh, you mean those Europeans who come to America and become really fucking successful business owners and businessmen and women? Seriously? Oh, those individuals? If America was so bad, then why are people dying to cross our border?
Because when you
Because
get
it
here, you have
sucks worse on
protections.
the other side.
Yeah, you have
The
100%.
other side of the
some
fence
measure
is
of
shit.
Well,
protections.
you had protections. It may not be that way for at least the next couple of years.
Probably not.
I mean, this is why we were having the conversation about the 14th Amendment and what it was intended for and all sorts of other nonsense. And having to
And habeas
explain to
corpus,
people
like,
how it works. Oh yeah, habeas corpus. Who needs that?
Yeah. And let's be honest, even when the Constitution was created, it was not, everyone was not equal. So sure, bring us, you're tired and you're hungry, etc. We'll give you an opportunity. Everyone here is free to do what they want, except like the majority of men didn't even have the fucking right to vote in America, unless you were some sort of landowner.
Why did we want habeas corpus in the first place? I don't want some corpse hanging around my habitat. We
Oh
should
my
get rid of
God.
that
I don't know.
immediately.
I don't know what habeas means, but they can do that somewhere else.
That's what I'm saying, right? I'm not going to judge, but not here, brother.
I'm going to judge depending on what it is, and I might want to watch.
Fair, fair.
Depending, right? No
No, I asked
Diddy.
that question about the Poland border and the fact that it's Muslims does seem kind of because there was obviously a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric around the world, especially like in Europe and here, um,
Mm-hmm.
and it just the fact it trains people to be willing to allow the worst things to happen to those people without getting up in arms about it, right? It's kind of like the same thing. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
someone's in our country illegally. Let's send them to a terrorist prison for indefinitely. It's like, you jaywalk, you don't go to prison for the rest of your life. You don't
Well,
you
it's a way to
shoplift
kind
from
of
Walmart.
dehumanize people, right?
Yes,
It's
exactly.
totally a strategic way to show. It's a very strategic way for the individuals who are in control to push this narrative where the society can justify dehumanizing other people. So it's okay because they're not really human. They're not like us. They're inferior to us. So how they get treated, we can kind of detach ourselves from the morality or like the ethics of it. I mean, like, who cares? You know what I mean?
And
Who
and
cares? Because like, aren't don't they represent like the individuals who like the same individuals who are like in a terrorist organization? Like, you don't know that. Like,
and
come
then
on, man.
and then so what can that lead to? And then there's obviously we have a very obvious example in history of 1930s Germany, where what happens when a group of people um, get propagandized and demagogued so highly against a group of people, what can happen? And we see what can happen, right? And it's kind of the same thing I was worried about when like all the demagoguery about the border and stuff was going to happen. Like people now will say, like you tell them, like this person didn't commit any crimes, he's not even been linked to a gang, and he's right now in a prison that we can he possibly for the rest of his life. And they're like, well, he was in the country illegally, and it's like, really? That's that's your take on it? That's like
Well,
this person
he's
trying
an
to make his
immigrant.
life better. Yeah,
Yeah,
this person trying to make his
he's an
life better,
illegal
and you're
alien.
just
He's yeah,
well.
he's an illegal alien. Yeah, like okay.
He apparently lost the the coin toss, and so he deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And
But
so that's why
what
I
about the
just want to
one
point out, it's
guy
like,
who's rotting in prison right now, who was
yeah,
not tied to any gangs, who
well, there's at least 50.
was yeah. It's like holy shit. And Trump knows this. He knows that there are multiple individuals rotting in a Venezuelan jail right now. He asked the Venezuelan like president or something like that to release them. He's like, I can't do that. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck do
but
you mean you can't?
we all know that
Well,
he had no ethics and no morals, right? The point I'm trying to make
yeah.
is that like the Germans weren't just evil people waiting for an evil leader. They were a bunch of uninformed people who were being led to hate a group of people. And the same people who are totally fine with these people rotting in prison are those Germans, right?
Oh, okay.
They're
Okay.
the idiots who don't know anything, who got misled into thinking that they're just horrible people, and
Yeah.
so essentially, I'm just calling them Nazis.
Jeez. The thought terminating language. I get the sentiment, but it becomes thought terminating language when it at the
Well, I
end.
mean,
Go ahead.
Well, I
I
mean,
try to I try
from
to have
that
this
logic,
argument with people
yeah,
because I try to
yeah,
make the
from that
point, right?
logic,
Because
yeah,
most of
from a
these
certain
people,
point of view, from a certain point of view, it is reasonable to come to that conclusion. Now, can you test that logic and poke holes in it? Sure, you can. But I think
what?
his point is a reasonable one.
Well,
The
because like if you
Nazi
look
state
at it,
now. You guys may
so
not
like
realize that.
if you
Try,
look at
try,
any,
try just staying seated during the national anthem and tell me what happens to you. Just that one little test will show you everything you need to know about the state that we live in.
if you look
I
at
mean,
like any bad group of
as a
people,
prior as a prior service as a prior service member, it will definitely grind my fucking gears if I see someone next to me during the national anthem who like doesn't stand up, doesn't like put their hand over their heart or something.
You're
It
saying you
does.
can't do it?
Like that's serious. What
No,
like they think
I
just because
can't
they're in
do
a
it.
wheelchair,
I
they
would never do it.
just because they're in a wheelchair, that
Well,
doesn't
no,
mean they need to
there's
show respect. I mean, come on.
no. There's a difference, right? Because what I'm saying is that for me, it would grind my gears because I consider myself a patriot, right? I'm prior service, prior army. So whenever the national anthem is played, I stand up, I take off my hat, put my hand over my heart, etc. Right? I show respect to the flag. I show respect to the anthem. It would grind my gears if someone standing next to me didn't. However, I know that context matters. So what if that individual is a Jehovah's Witness? They don't salute the flag. It's against their religion. Does that make sense? Like
It
for
makes
me, I'm
Yes,
sense.
going to
but how could you
internalize
know? How could you know context? You're assuming to understand something that you don't.
100%. 100%. That's what logical individual. That's what I would do to kind of.
Well, so what it
Number
is that
one.
latent hatred that spews forth. It's exactly what you're talking about. It would grind your gears. Well, when you sit there, you will feel 100 people's gears grind around you, and it's about the most terrifying
Oh, I
thing
see.
I've ever felt. So just go ahead and give it a shot and see how it goes for you.
I see what you're
That's
saying.
what I'm saying.
See, I'm speaking for about me as the individual. You're talking about like the societal ramifications of it.
I'm saying experiment. I'm saying that you are trained to now stand no matter what. So you can't know what it means to sit down, and you need to know what it's like to just stay seated, just to know what it's like to stay seated. You can go right back. Ain't nobody forcing you to sit. But what you're telling me is you have no choice. You've let go of your nationalism, and somebody taught you how to do it.
I mean, not necessarily, because I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, which is why I can like look at it from a different perspective. I can internalize it, and sure, it's going to grind my gears as a prior service member, as someone who considers themselves a patriot. However, I'm not going to let my emotions cloud my judgment because I know, number one, I fought for their right to sit down. Who the fuck says that they have to
Let
sit?
me update because as a prior service member, I suspect I would feel less of your gears grinding than anybody else because it's blind
Oh, that's true.
patriotism from them,
That's true.
and you're a person who actually understands it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And this is the weird thing. That's what I'm trying to say is just try it out as a prior service member. If anybody has the right to stay seated during the national anthem, it's you, man. But you've been told you can't. Just try it one time and see how it feels. It's freaking weird.
It's not that I think I can or can't, right? Like, so for me specifically, like I said, it probably would grind my gears, but I'm not going to let my emotions cloud my judgment. I'm going to internalize it, and I'm not going to take it personally because I don't know this person. What if they're a Jehovah's Witness and it's against their religion to salute the flag, right? What if this motherfucker just can't stand up, right? What if this dude has autism or some shit? Or what if ultimately I served my country to defend it and the rights of the individuals within it to stand or sit during the national anthem, to salute the flag or not.
Absolutely,
And
no
by
doubt.
that, and by that logic, initially it's going to grind my gears, but once I internalize it, I'm totally fine with it. It's not going to bother me. I'm not going to be enraged if I see someone.
Not to the
Like,
people who are blindly following,
no, I
unlike
get you.
you.
I get you.
Cool.
I get you. I get you. Yeah.
So I
It's
had a
dark.
conversation pretty recently with a family member about why it should be okay to jail people that burn the flag in protest. Do you feel that should be protected, Mando?
Wow.
That's hard for me because of what the flag represents. It's not just a flag, right? For me, seeing someone burn the flag is an act of like, it's an act of terrorism as far as I'm concerned. Like I see it as an attack. I see that as an attack. However, I'm just an individual. Do I want someone to be jailed? Again, I'm not going to let my emotions cloud my judgment. I'm not going to let someone go to prison because burning the flag has become a felony. Is burning the flag a fucking felony? Is it a misdemeanor? Is it a crime to burn
No.
the flag?
I
No,
don't think so.
no,
Covered
it's
under free
not.
speech.
It's not.
Well, it just depends. If you burn it on top of something and cause damage, that's illegal. But to burn it on top of
Yeah,
Right, it's not the
that's
flag that does it, it's the fire.
not that. So it's not a crime. It's not a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. It's just someone exercising their constitutional right.
it
So
goes against
what I would do, I don't want them
the
to be
patriotism
jailed.
con.
What I want are Americans to take that flag from that motherfucker and stop him from burning it, because that's what I would.
Yeah, but if he paid for it, it's his, right?
It's not anymore. It's mine.
Because you took it?
Now that is a
That's it.
crime.
He can call the cops on me, and when the cops show up, I guarantee you I won't get arrested. Guaranteed.
No, but he'll probably get his flag back and then he can burn it.
So,
No,
you know, like
I guarantee you, if I was in like, if I was in a place like New York, right? Not even New
You're trying to
York.
prevent
Like if I was,
thought crime, man. It can't be done.
no, hold on,
You can't
hold on.
prevent somebody from wanting to burn the flag. You're preventing them from
No.
burning the flag, but they still
Yeah, I'm
desire it.
preventing
So you
him
haven't
from.
done anything but
I'm preventing him.
frustrate them.
Well, he can go. He can take his frustration to the bank, right? Pull out some more money and invest that money into our economy by purchasing another American flag that he can potentially try and burn again.
A small but important percentage of those people turned into Ted Kaczynski.
Holy shit. How did I know we were going to get to that?
Holy shit, that caught me off guard. But
I was
I
waiting
guarantee
for
you,
it.
like if I was back in Tennessee or like I'm in Texas right now. So if I'm like downtown and there's like this protest going on and someone is actively burning a flag, and I go up and take it from him, put the fire out, and then tie the flag around myself so he can't have it back. And he calls the cops. He's like, "This motherfucker stole my flag." It's like, well, is that his flag? Yep, sure was. He was burning it, and I took it from him. It's mine now. Possession is 9/10 of the law, isn't it? Well, I mean,
you
You go
know,
back to your car with the burnt flag and your car's not there, no big deal, right? It's 9/10 of the law.
one
you know
hundred percent. I
the funny thing
guarantee
is,
you,
I consider patriotism a manipulative, con job. But at the same time, I think it's beneficial to the country I live in.
100%. I think you
You
are
want
on
to
both
sign up? But I
aspects.
think I already did.
I would sign up again if I could. I totally would. Knowing all of the things that I know now, I would not trade the time that I spent in the military for it. I would do it all over. I would probably make some different decisions, but I would definitely do it all over.
I'd trade your time in the military for $50.
And
And I'm just
you're
kidding,
right.
man. Total respect for anybody who served. I don't want anybody to misunderstand where I'm coming from. I think serving in the military is one of the most important things that we have. Serving your government and what supports your freedoms is beyond important. Recently, I was supposed to serve for jury duty, and instantly people were telling me how to get out of it, and nothing disgusts me more than that.
It seems like we live in a society where no one believes that they have any duty to the society that they're in. They want to enjoy the privileges and the rights that are afforded them, but they don't want any responsibility that comes along with it. They believe,
Everybody wants big muscles, and nobody wants to lift weights.
right? It's like, give me my rights and my privileges. Don't tell me what to do, but I don't owe you anything. I don't have, you know what I mean? It's like freedom without consequence. Freedom without responsibility.
Consequences
Like,
keep growing. They're just postponed. They don't actually go away. That's what scares me.
the only individuals in our society that are afforded that luxury are children. That's it. If you're an adult in our society and you enjoy your privileges and your rights, then you should also do your duty to the society that affords you those privileges and those rights. But I'm also like someone who grew up in a military family also. So like my whole opinion might be a skewed one. Like my dad was in the army, my grandmother was in the Air Force, my grandfather was in the Navy. Like two of my uncles were in the army. One of them was an Army Ranger, like tier 2 operator and shit. I got an uncle who was in the USMC. He was a Marine. He was really upset that I didn't go Marines, but fuck him. And all
So
of
when
my
you think
uncles
about
were upset.
I do actually think there would be some benefit to mandatory service. Maybe not necessarily in the military itself, but I think there would be some
Like
benefit,
civil
especially if
service. Like civil
yeah,
service.
if there was
100%.
some standard of like health standard that was necessary to maintain for that too, it would not only keep us healthier as Americans, but
Bro, we got
If
fucking
not
money.
military service, some
We
other type
literally
of
have the
government service is appropriate.
100%, 100%. Because we have the fucking money. Our government literally has the money. I don't know how they would. I don't know how they would go about doing it, but our government definitely has the money to feed, clothe, and offer like room and board for a young society during like their civil service,
But to do
right?
that,
Like
we would
4
have to
years of
take
civil
money out of
service.
the mouths of poor profiteers.
They've got plenty of fucking money. Like even the amount of money that a lot of these lobbyists make, it's a drop in the bucket for them. It's a drop in the bucket. 4 years is like what? Let's even be generous and say it would take $1 million a year, right, to feed, clothe, and offer room and board for an 18-year-old who is going to conduct his civil duties to our society for a 4 year period. So that's $4 million for 4 years. $1 million a year. You think our government can't do that for 40,000 people, 50,000 people, 100,000 18-year-olds? Of course we can.
I could print
Of
that on my
course we can.
copier tonight.
Welcome, GSU.
I mean,
with
I'm gonna be disembodied voice too.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we got now since Ahrelevant left. Did you catch any of the conversation?
I caught about 20 minutes.
Oh, that's not nearly
I was
enough.
there from 9 to about 9:25.
Right on. So, what's your opinion on what's being called black fatigue at this point?
That's my opinion on this. Unfortunately, I'm getting fatigue from like the left black fatigue. there's just so much like non-serious race talk on the left that I'm fatigued from it. And I don't even know if people have good intentions anymore. I doubt that. So I'm fatigued from like fake caring and all of that stuff. Like I think there's real conversations to be had, and I'm excited always to have those. But a part of the whole Ibram X. Kennedy anti-racism wave of the world just sucked my soul out, and like it's just crazy nonsense opinion after nonsense opinion, and like they don't stop, and I'm fatigued from that. So my black fatigue is from like non-serious, non-critical conversations.
No,
That's
you could,
like
you could just
half
go
of
ahead
it.
and say it. Just call it out for what it is. It's performative, offensive. It's like it's fucking paid actors, bro. It's all performance.
That's all
They don't
surface level
genuinely
thinking,
or yeah. They
right?
don't
They hear
genuinely
something
or authentically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they haven't thought
Mm-hmm.
about the like they haven't thought out all their opinions on it, right? They haven't thought out the whole thing. They have a surface level mantra that they champion, and that happens all over the
Well,
place
I mean,
for just about everything.
their opinion is the same opinion as the individuals in their group, right? And so I think a lot of what I'm seeing from these individuals who have like the most issues with a lot of this stuff and who talk the loudest and who are the most active on these in these spaces in regards to like being so offended about racism, et cetera, right? Are individuals who seem like the only reason that they have the issues with racism that they have is because it's popular to have issues with racism, right? They're part of a group, and that's what the group ideology is. And so they want to remain a part of that group, and they want to get their social points, right? The social currency nowadays is what's it. So you got to say the
Yeah.
right things, do the right things, portray yourself in the right way. And it's not necessarily about being decent, being a good person, right? And being good to other people. It's just about how individuals are going to perceive you. And is that going to give you the social points that you desire and the acceptance from the group that you're a part of?
Yes.
Oh, remember, it's not enough to not be racist. You have to be anti-racist.
Is that
Yeah.
Wombat? Is that Wombat?
That is Wombat.
I can neither confirm nor deny that it is Wombat.
That is you.
It
You
is the
sound
artist formerly known
you're
as
the only
Wombat.
Canadian that always speaks like he's fucking half asleep or drunk.
I don't know what you're talking about. I sound like that comedian Steve, whatever his name is.
So
Steve Harvey.
Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright.
Steve and Wright, correct.
to get to
Okay.
part of my issue with it, like I have a small child and he's not entirely
Is this your child? I just want to make sure we don't need to report you or something. Your child.
yeah, it's half of my DNA, half of somebody else's DNA.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Carry on. Sorry.
And you know, this little goofy person isn't in full control of his faculties, isn't very well coordinated. So let's say I take him to the park and he runs into some lady, you know, just bumps right into him because he has a giant head, no balance. And this person decides to call him the hard R.
Whoa.
Should that be acceptable in society as freedom of
Republican?
speech?
No.
It should only be acceptable if
100%
you can then
What?
hit them in the head with a bat.
Well, what do you mean by
I mean, it
acceptable?
should
Do you
be-
mean like, let's start at legal? Do you think it should be legal?
Yeah, it should be legal, but that doesn't mean it's going to be free of consequences. Is what I'm trying.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we gotta peel this onion layer by layer.
Yeah,
right?
nobody should go to jail for it.
Well,
but it
it's-
So
definitely
they have a
should be
legal right
acceptable.
to do that. Huh?
Yeah.
Just simple
Do you
comprehension
think-
for your
So do
Deal
you think the
settled.
response to legal behavior should also be legal behavior? Or do you think legal behavior should beget illegal behavior?
I mean, it depends on what said legal behavior is.
Yeah, I think I don't think that you should punch that lady in the face. I don't think that, right? But if you want to call her a
I
fucking
do.
stupid white bitch, like sure.
There's nothing wrong with
I never said that they were white. They just dropped a hard R.
Well,
Can your kid
Well,
get up to that
okay.
height to punch her in the face, or are you going to have to do it for him?
It'd have to be a crotch punch. He's about 3 feet tall, so
Okay.
he's probably at
Big
least half their height.
punch.
I think
That's why you
that's a
gotta have
totally fair
female-
trade, personally. Of hard R for a punch to the crotch. I don't know. Feels even.
I think to Wombat's point, so the response to that for me would be, regardless of who this woman is, like racially or ethnically, I'm going to call her some sort of racial slur in return. Like if she's Asian or something, I'm going to just like, call her like something to do with like some sort of Asian slur. If she's like, I don't know. I'm going to respond in kind, basically. I'm going to match her.
What if she touched your child inappropriately? Would you touch her inappropriately too?
Oh yeah, I'd grab her by the pussy, 100%.
What's she look like?
That doesn't matter. Irrelevant.
It's
Okay.
the principle of the
gross.
matter.
That is
He
the
has
gross
to do
part
it
right there.
out of principle.
So
Hey, so
It's about
Go ahead.
Mordecai,
go ahead, GSU.
what is actually up with the lady in the park? I haven't read this story.
So
I just know that
this
a
woman
kid was in a park.
said that
Yeah.
a black child went through her bag. She proceeded to call him the hard R. We don't know the age, like it ranges between 5 and 15, and whether or not this kid is deeply
It's a
autistic.
big ass range.
Big range.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Nobody's come forward to say exactly how old the kid is.
Was it like LeBron James, and so he's 8, but he looks 15 because he's already 6 feet tall? Is that what it is, or what?
This is definitely the question. Like, I'd like to find out exactly how old this kid is, but like I've heard, like the guy that was in the video said the kid was 5. People are saying this kid was older than that, and that's down to the propaganda engine. So your mileage may vary on whatever the answer on that's going to be. But either way, the kid was a minor, so they're a kid in my eyes, and they had a slur dropped on them, and she proceeded to start to chase this kid down, and somebody started recording and called her out on it, and she proceeded to drop the N-word over and over again and proceeded to say, if he's going to act like one, I'm going to call him one. The outcry,
Oh, so it wasn't a 15-year-old. I can tell you that. She wouldn't be chasing down a black 15-year-old saying the hard R. That's not possible. So they had to be, just from context clues, they're less than 9 years old, probably.
yeah, while she's carrying her child and like walking after this kid. And you can see the kid like up in the play area, like he didn't look like he was over 8 years old.
Yeah, she may be
Yeah.
dumb, but I don't think she's stupid.
So the
Yeah,
outcry,
so was she chasing him because he took her purse and all that?
I don't believe he took her
Or she was
purse.
just
She
chasing
would've been-
him because he went through like her bag or something?
I'm assuming she
Everybody
thought
was a
that
toy
he
and
took
taken from her
something.
kid.
Yeah, she thinks he took
She thought it was
something
a
out of the
toy.
bag. None of this has been proven.
Oh.
So
She
Well, I'm glad
thought he
I'm
took
glad it was
something out.
recorded, right? Because I don't think the appropriate response is to commit violence or do anything illegal against this person, but I think they deserve all the social consequences that you can heap upon them for that.
And what? How much did she make? Like $600,000
she
from
got
a bunch of
over
racists.
$700,000 in a Give Sin Go and has gotten no outcry from certain media sources. And I'm guessing she probably lost her job and she needed to move, and that's why she put up the Give Sin Go to begin with. But it got up
Just to be
to
clear, I'm
700,000.
in the Lethe camp that I don't think anyone should be using the hard R at this point. So
I agree.
Agreed.
like just let that word die.
Yeah. Me and Nikki have talked about this.
I totally
before.
disagree.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you're black or not. Like I don't use it. And I've never used it because my
I'm not going to
grandmother
use it. I
hated
don't
that
have a
fucking shit.
desire to use it, but why are we not
Well, I
using it?
grew up,
What is going on in your
well, I
head
grew up,
that a certain sound makes you go, ah, I just lost control?
no,
Up in
no,
here, up in here.
it's more like, it's more like my upbringing. So my environment, in my
It's
environment,
common
we were talking about
courtesy,
earlier.
of course.
Yeah,
Like, I
like
don't
in
go
my
around calling
environment,
everybody who's a shithead,
everyone used it.
because that's everybody.
Everyone. But like in my household, like I grew up in a household where my grandmother hated that word. My grandmother would smack you in the fucking mouth if you said that shit in her house or in her presence. My mother would smack you in the mouth if you said that shit. My father didn't approve of it. My uncles didn't approve of it. Like, sure, the outside environment, culturally, it was acceptable, right? But I was raised to not use the fucking word. Now, I'm not going to hold that same sentiment towards other people in that sense. Like, if you say it around me, I'm not necessarily going to tell you not to say it, right? But that's just who I am. But me personally, I just don't say it. I don't think
It
it should
just
be said.
it
I don't
just
give a
says a
fuck
little
what
bit about your
person does.
character and nothing else. It's not a death sentence or an assault on society or humanity. It tells you
Yeah.
something about the person, and it's very revealing. How you choose to use that knowledge is up to you.
Well, I think we've seen how that knowledge gets used, right? Because kind of circling back to black fatigue, there's only certain things that we know for sure we're supposed to do in reference to racial solidarity. And one is if a white person drops the hard R, that's an easy check mark for you to be like, I'm on team, black. Let's not do this, blah, blah, blah. And then you can feel good for a month or two about yourself. Whereas if you had to confront the larger issues of the community, which I think are better solved by just class solidarity across all racial lines, because it's a lot harder to divide class than it is to divide race, and all of that common work towards, if you raised up the bottom 30% of society, you would disproportionately benefit black people until everything is fairly equal at that level, right? It would disproportionately benefit them until it didn't. And then it would just benefit everyone that it should be, which is that bottom third. So you could solve racial inequality by solving class inequality.
Well, so I believe in that somewhat. I think that there are different reasons that certain, like if we talk about the bottom third, there's different reasons why people exist in the bottom third. And if you don't solve some of the core issues that can lead people to be in the bottom third, then you could end up solving the problem for parts of those people, but not all of those people. So I believe in certain targeted things towards Black communities because there's individualized things that can lead to Black people being in the bottom third, whether that's investment in schools or blah, 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 right? The litany of things we could list out. Um, so I think I agree with you that there should be some class solidarity, but I also agree that there should be some explicit things done for certain Black communities because explicit things were done to make those communities where they are.
Yeah, I think you can make a case for that, right? Like, I'm not completely opposed to the idea of being able to look at that granular of a level. And then if you see that issue, that granular issue repeating itself across the country, especially in specific communities, then you can look at it that way, right? But I don't think we have the class. You could solve a massive amount of the issues, and you can empower Black people to help self-rectify some of those other issues if we just pushed on class solidarity more than we did on race. And to your point, Once that's done, if we can see that there's issues in the system that are still affecting target groups, it's a lot easier to deal with them at that point than when they're buried underneath just an entire class issue.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been, Fred Hampton, there's been quite a lot of black revolutionaries that were somewhat also in the space of like class solidarity too, right? Like Rainbow Coalition and things like that. So, yeah, I think those things are good. I sometimes am afraid that those things don't have as much momentum because there is like, racial tension, to say the least. But yeah, no, I think those type of things would be wonderful, for sure.
Yeah. And then it kind of takes the pedal a little bit off of just, it's going to sound horrible, right? But it's just been like 60 some odd years of equal rights and black solidarity and just this messaging being constantly pushed. And I don't say that to mean that it's unwarranted. I just, again, we get back to the idea of fatigue, right? And if you're looking for a different way to push the stone up the hill that gets as many people behind it as possible, then you need to relabel it or attack it a little differently. And going back to class and all poor people matter, new hashtag, that might, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it is something different that you can try to do to attack it differently and maybe refresh people on the movement.
Yeah, especially, well, I mean, the same people who are attacking, like intentionally manipulating the narrative to attack um, what's being done for Black people are going to attack that too. It's just they have to start from scratch.
Well, and if you're attacking an initiative that's not only going to benefit the people in Baltimore, but also in like Appalachia, right, or Middle America, it's a lot more difficult to countenance
Yeah,
for
large percentage.
some people. Yeah, because then you're going to have to tell what's a big chunk of the base that you say that you're for, to also deny the people that you are racially against, I guess, the racists.
There are two groups that benefit from this greatly. They're named the Democrats and the Republicans. And they're actually a corporation and they profit from our hatred of each other. Stop it.
Yeah, there's statements on both ends of that spectrum. You have the idea of Lee Atwater that expressed the Southern strategy and exactly how things are going to be done against particular demographics. And then you have things that Lyndon B. Johnson said, where if you can convince a white man that he's better than any other black man, it allows you to get to their pocket easier. So, like, these ideas have been on both sides of the aisle. But Fairy Queen has done the Fairy Queen thing that I always appreciate her doing. She's brought up an idea. She is, and I don't know if everybody agrees that the word bitch is a slur, but it can definitely be used to denigrate women. And she's saying that it's the canary in the coal mine as far as slurs go. We don't live in a less sexist society simply because people feel more okay with saying misogynistic slurs. It just means that people are okay with being casually sexist, and the same principles apply with racism. I would say the N-word and the word bitch are both used colloquially among different groups of people, whereas they're still not necessarily acceptable in the workplace. They're acceptable in society. And I don't necessarily think they're a benefit to society. So would removing these words and making them like saying Voldemort be useful?
Nah, nigga is here to stay.
Can I tell someone to quit their bitching?
It's too important. It's way too important. But like only in the black community. But I think bitch is one of the most versatile, creative words that you can utter. So like it'll be hard to take that one too. No, I'm joking a little bit, but no, seriously though. I think people who use bitch toward women are terrible people. Generally speaking. So yeah, I mean,
And
but I think just yeah,
that's kind of
there's
what I'm
nuanced
saying.
use cases for the word.
That word used directed at women is very similar to the way the N word was directed at black people. And to the point where
What's the
you don't have a
substitute?
name anymore.
I think there's a
You are
different
just
history
that.
with
I,
those words.
Well, yeah, there's
I
definitely a
wouldn't
What's
different
say
the
history.
similar.
substitute?
Well, I
Yeah,
would
I
not
wouldn't
say
say
that all
similar.
women were addressed as that in society, but it would be the next closest thing.
I mean,
When
they
Okay,
I'm
didn't. They
dealing
but
didn't
with
used
a
to
woman
call
who's
women
being an
bitches.
obstinate
They
whatever,
used to call women ball busters, and that evolved into calling them bitches. Like they
I
weren't
mean,
calling women
eh,
bitches in like the 1900s and the 1700s. They're calling them something else. You know what I mean? They're calling them whores and like something else that was
Strumpet.
like
I believe
denigrated
strumpet was
specifically for their gender. Yeah, strumpet,
used pretty often.
right?
that
Ball
sounds
buster.
nice.
She's a real ball buster. Which
I heard
basically means the
trumpet a
exact
lot
same thing.
in '90s hip hop and rap.
I think
Did you did you
I
really?
think there's a
No,
I, I
And I
think
guess
there's
we
a
just call them
diff.
all fuckers, right? You're all fuckers.
Yeah,
well,
I
you
think
can
there's a
have like a
difference.
bitchin' surfboard though, right? And you can tell someone to quit bitching. And
Not anymore. It's a
I
fucking
I
surfboard.
I think I call men bitches more than I ever would
100%.
a woman.
100%. I call
Like
men
Yeah,
That's what makes it
cunts and I call women
misogynistic.
bitches. I call men cunts and I call women bitches. Or not sorry, I got that
We'll,
reversed.
we'll,
I call
we'll
yes,
flip it.
I call men bitches and women cunts. If I really want to denigrate a woman, I'll call her a cunt. I don't call her a bitch.
I didn't hear that word until I was in college, and it was so mind blowing because this girl like almost exploded, and I'm like, wait, what does that word mean? And it's funny because they said, oh, it's like calling her a bitch, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've never heard this word before in my life.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that.
Well,
100% worse.
in the United States,
In
it's
my
worse.
experience, I've seen in my experience, I've seen women literally blow the fuck up the moment you call them a cunt, and when you call them a bitch, they're like, bro, seriously?
I mean,
You
depends on the
disrespectful as
society,
shit. Like
right?
a woman will get violent if you call her a cunt, but she'll just like get uppity if you call her a bitch.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I
gotta
mean?
let
Depends
them
on the
know
woman. I've
you
had a
ain't a
couple
bitch or a
request
hoe.
it.
I wonder if there's
Oh
like
shit.
racial differences in this. Because I'm pretty sure if you call a black woman a bitch and a black woman a cunt, she, it's definitely going to be a larger reaction to bitch, for sure.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think that word's
Doesn't that
necessarily
depend on their
normalized.
linguistic upbringing, not their race?
I mean,
Well,
there's
it's
like
like
I
a
think,
culture.
much different
I think
connotation
there's
between
a,
the two,
yeah,
right?
Culture,
Because the N word kind of
culture would be
implies like a full racist sentiment towards a whole group of people, where calling one woman a bitch does not necessarily mean that you hate all women.
yeah,
that's true.
exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like,
we know that the term bitch is associated with femininity, and that even when you do call a guy a bitch, it's still relating
Yeah.
them to being,
You're
hey,
basically implying
you're
that
an
he's
angry,
behaving like a
annoying
feminine.
woman kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so it
You're
is still a
implying that he's
gendered,
behaving like a feminine woman
yeah,
and
and
shit that he would
it's
say.
still a gendered insult, and it's just so tired, and it's low hanging fruit. And I've always been of the mind that you can do far more damage to someone with like more unique kind of creative ways of calling them down than just throwing like these casual insults that they've probably heard a million times, and they still get mad because they're supposed to get mad, but it doesn't actually hurt them, right? If you're trying to actually hurt that person, you got to work a little harder than that.
Well, in some situations, it's probably better to just like if a woman is behaving in a certain way, like the reason
Like a bitch.
individuals, well, yeah, the reason why men will call a woman a bitch is because she's being annoying. She's like acting like a child and throwing a tantrum, right? Or something like that, right? So in those situations, you just call her a brat. Why are you like imply that she's behaving like a spoiled brat?
I mean,
and
there's
then
a
see
lot
what
of words. You
happens.
can definitely use your words and actually define the behavior better than using denigrating language.
100%. I don't think pointing out that she's a spoiled brat would be denigrating. I think if I think if the behavior fits, right? If you're behaving like some sort of spoiled child who is not getting their way and so they're throwing a tantrum, and so I'm calling you a spoiled brat, that actually tracks more than just calling her a bitch.
And Fairy Queen has done the Fairy Queen thing again. It's because she's being an animal, less than a human, like a female dog. That is the insult, dude. That is exactly what
You,
the issue with these particular slurs are. It's removing the humanity from the individual and bringing them
Okay.
down to the level of something that is subhuman.
the way you read it kind
I
of
mean, when
made it
you put it
seem
that
like
way,
you're
it
saying
sounds
about
okay.
her.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, that's my issue with the N word in general, is denigrating. It's like
Mm.
that word was meant to say that you are 3/5 of a human being or less. This is what society did throughout all of early America up until we get to the early 1900s. So,
Wait, was it 3/5 or was it more
or
or was it
less.
less?
It was less
Like
for
what
a
was
long time. Then it became three
It was
fifths
less.
when it was
Yeah, it was
useful.
less. We were literally valued. We were literally looked at lower than livestock.
I thought it was like 3/5 the whole time though. Are you saying that it was like a sliding scale or something like
No,
that?
it didn't become 3/5 until the 3/5 compromise when they wanted to use slaves for the vote. So it didn't begin at
Yeah,
3/5. They gave 3/5 just because they wanted to
yeah.
use the whole person for
The
a
benefit,
vote. And they had to
the
compromise and
benefit
say,
of
you
the
can't
owner.
use the whole black person.
It's kind of crazy because they still do that. They still do like all sorts of like appealing to like appealing to like certain cultures based on like racial demographics and shit in order to garner their votes. Like they don't give a shit about us, bro.
They do. They want your votes to,
They care.
buttress
Yeah, they
their hold on power,
100%.
but they don't want to solve your problems. They're like
No, they don't.
pharmaceutical companies that find it far more profitable
100%.
to treat the symptoms than to cure the disease.
Well, it's more beneficial. It's more there's more monetary gain to just treating people's symptoms because you could just keep feeding them fucking pills and charging them money. Not even necessarily them, but these fucking insurance companies make fucking trillions of dollars, bro,
Yeah,
in bed with
and
these
the
pharmaceutical
Democrats get
companies.
millions of votes because they convince you
Hmm.
that they're going to end racism. But
Yeah.
when's that happening? I mean,
Surprise.
they're the ones who put
Surprise.
in the crime bill. So
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy.
all black men are equal in prison. Joe Biden, 1994. What was the year?
94 crime bill was crazy. It's unfortunate because
Holy
we,
shit, bro.
as a people, denigrated ourselves in saying, yes, this is what we want. We want our people thrown in jail because we don't think our streets are safe, rather than looking for reforms and help in the community. Yet when it's a different demographic of people, like in the opioid crisis, all of a sudden these people need help. They have a problem. Let's get them, therapy. Let's get them
Yeah,
into
community
programs.
resources.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so why wasn't it throw them in jail then?
because they're white.
I don't want to necessarily say that, but I'm saying the
I
results
mean,
were
I just
vastly different.
I'm tired of this. When are we going to talk about the most oppressed group of people in the history of the world, the white Christian man?
I mean,
Oh, so
I
that is another
mean,
great question. Can
Wait,
we
wait, wait.
all open an
If
olive
you
jar?
start talking about them, they're no longer oppressed. So
Damn it.
first
Okay,
rule of
moving on.
first rule of
Who we
white
talking about?
club is do not talk about white club.
We talking about the neo
no, the
pronoun
first
people.
rule of
What are we talking
anti-white
about?
club is don't talk about.
Yeah, what are your pronouns, GSU?
Z and Zer.
Does that mean you're Xerxes?
My man.
I was
It's
expecting
actually
something
my
different.
Zer. It's my Zer if you want to be correct.
My man.
Not my man.
I like
Oh,
it when
my-
his pronouns are Zer.
Bro, that fucking
Leezer is the most comical shit ever.
I don't even know how that came
Oh, shit.
about. Like, I don't know who started that. I don't know how it became part of the zeitgeist. It just got here.
Well, the
And
funny thing is, it started from extremely anti, it started from like actual homophobic places, right? Like attack helicopter, and then it became true. So like,
I
like I
love
don't
Attack
know,
Helicopter.
like I don't know what, I don't know how I can't believe this is like a canon timeline. Like this is actually real. Like it's crazy.
The
wait.
I might be
AH-64
I
Apache
actually
is
might
great.
be a bigot. I actually might be someone who's a bigot because when people ask me like how I identify, I say I'm an AH-64 attack helicopter.
Go
Yeah, but there
Apache.
are actual people that believe they are too. No,
Well,
are
how do you
there
know I
Are
though?
don't
there, or is
believe?
Like,
that just
are
the
there
right wing
though?
talking point?
There are
Wasn't that
people who
wasn't that
believe he's an attack helicopter. That's bullshit.
what's that song? I
Attack
believe I can
helicopter go brrr.
fly. I believe I can
no, they're
touch the
actual
Helicopter
sky.
go
humans.
brrr.
I believe in general
They're
text
real.
chat he is an attack helicopter, but in real life he absolutely is not an attack helicopter.
100%.
Listen, if people can be frogs and fish, people can be attack helicopters.
Well, and
Bro, have you gone
to be
to
serious for a second, right? Like, I don't mind when something like that comes out and they use language and they use terms to challenge existing structures. And so trying to fight for that idea that there's something that exists outside of the binary by creating a label for it and some language around it, I think it really creates a space to explore and to educate. But I think there's a lot of animus that comes with it sometimes when people try to weaponize it and use it as a shaming tool. And instead
do it
of
all the time.
educating, they're dividing. And I think that's counterproductive to what
Hold
a lot
on.
of the original intent on some of that was.
Because I do that. I do both things of what you're talking about, right? Like, so with my fucking friends, I do this all the time. We'll be playing fucking video games and they'll do something really fucking stupid and it'll fuck up the entire fucking match, right? And I will literally ask them if their mommy and daddy signed their permission slip for them to be released from the fucking zoo, and I will call them apes. Like, you fucking stupid ape. Did your mommy and daddy have to sign the permission slip for you to leave the fucking zoo so you can come play video
It doesn't
games
count
with us,
until you
you
make
fucking
8
ape?
sounds. It doesn't
Yeah,
count until
yeah.
you make 8 sounds.
Well, I do those things, right? But we all laugh, right? And they say shit like that to me too, so it's not really that big of a deal. But that's like, what he's talking about is like language and shit. And that's basically depending on like what group you are and the sort of relationship that you have with the people that are in your group, right? Like y'all use language differently, right? And me and my friend group, like we're all prior service, so we're all like very brutal. None of us get offended really fucking easily. Uh, some of these individuals I fucking served with in the military, like we were deployed together. We've gone through some fucking shit. So like we'll make racial jokes against each other all the fucking time, right? But that's not something that is probably socially acceptable outside of my friend group. And so I treat my friends like that, and that's how I interact with my friends, but I have a relationship with them. But I don't treat other people like that outside of my friend group. Does that make sense?
Well, that's kind of the deal with
Yeah.
all of this language. I think, like, if it's within your friend group, perfectly fine. But when you're using it in greater society,
Yeah.
it should have
Well,
some
except the
different
N
weight,
word.
especially the N word.
Except the N word.
Well,
Nah,
then,
don't use the N word in your friend groups.
bruh,
I mean,
Are you trying to censor people?
we try to
bro? Are
limit
you
it.
trying trying to censor people?
Yeah,
I
we
thought you said.
definitely limiting the N word for sure.
I thought you said.
We
I
only
thought you
give each
said the
other.
N word wasn't going anywhere. You literally admitted to Leafy that the N word wasn't going anywhere, and there was nothing you could do about it. And now you're trying to.
Yeah, for black people, yeah. Yeah, it's not going
Oh,
anywhere.
Or people in Halo 2 voice chat lobbies. That's still allowed as well too.
bro, holy shit!
The
You should see. You
gatekeeping
should
of the
listen to the
word.
comms on some of these fucking these PvP games, like these MMO, uh, like large squad PvP matches and shit. Listen to the comms on some of those fucking things, especially like in the EU. Like these motherfuckers in the EU say the N word a lot, bro.
But they don't say it
Holy
right. They don't
shit.
have the spirit of America in them. But to GSU, like it's the gatekeeping of the word that is the primary contention at the moment. That's a part of the black fatigue. It's
I
that
just
we can say it, they can't say it, and if they do say it, we're not going to be able to keep our composure.
It's like it has no power, but let me,
I mean,
you know, show that it has
I,
power by overreacting.
I think this is a online only issue. These aren't It's not like a real conversation.
It
Like
was on Piers
you don't
Morgan. It was a
walk.
real conversation. That was beyond online.
Yeah, and when it's used offline, it's used like that white lady did to that black child. It's not just people just walking up to like black people like, yo, what's up, my nigga? Like that doesn't happen. Like that's
Not
not
without a
real.
record
Like a
contract.
fucking Chappelle show episode. Like a fucking Chappelle show
Like,
episode. Like
what
that's
was
I
not.
that
mean,
chick's
you
name? The one that was on that episode of Piers Morgan, like, was basically using the word in normal nomenclature and claims she does this in her regular life.
but she doesn't, and we know she doesn't.
We I don't know if she does. I have to take her word for it. However,
He does.
my only criticism of like that entire interaction was Piers Morgan didn't even ask her the right questions. He just said, "Oh, so you're a racist," without asking her the right questions. He's like, "So you're
Well,
telling me that you say this in your daily life?" "Yeah, I say it all the time." Okay, so the next actual question that he should have asked is, do you say this word when you refer to black people because you believe that black people are inferior and you're calling them the N word because you believe they're inferior because they're black? And if she says yes, then okay, you're a fucking racist. Thank you.
I think most white people who say the I can't. It's hard for me to say the N word, but most white people who say nigga offline are absolutely racist, or they're like the white kid that grew up in the black community and is like somewhat in the black community. Those are the only two types of people that I hear say um, the N word offline.
And
I
that's what
don't
I'm
think
saying. What
there's a
about
gray
that
area.
second group?
I
Like,
think
what's your feeling on the second group?
I think if communities want to have an in group and they do that, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it happens.
Well, it's
Um,
permission space, right? If that social group thinks that person can use that word and it doesn't offend anyone inside the group, then I guess locally that's fine. But you got to be real careful because conversations don't just happen within groups, they happen in front of other groups. They happen
yeah,
with
exactly.
people coming into the group and then exiting. And that permission space is very nebulous in all of those other cases. And people get offended on behalf of other people, and consequences are levied.
Yeah, in my experience, this the whole like past thing has only happened like once, and it was cool for like 2 seconds, and then it was annoying. But in my experience, most white people in those situations understand how uncomfortable that situation can be for everybody involved. So they don't do it out of respect. for the group. Like, because most people in that situation grew up like
Especially if
strongly
you're using,
around black community. So
especially if
I don't.
most white people know the difference between, you know, most white people know the difference between nigga and nigger. They all know this. They all know this, right? So if a white individual is using, the
Hard
term
hard
that
R.
is acceptable in black culture, right? And they're doing it with individuals that they have like some sort of, because like I said before, like I grew up with white dudes who were saying the N-word all the fucking time, not the hard R, right? They were one of us. They came from the same neighborhood, right? Grew up with them, right? We were in the same fucking hood. So they were saying, right? It was acceptable. We had Latinos, we had Puerto Ricans, we had Mexicans who were all using the same vernacular inside the community, and it was not an issue. However, Leafy made a good point. If you got some dude who's from a Brooklyn borough who grew up in the projects with a community, and it's okay for him to use this vernacular where he comes from in his community, and then that individual goes to Bompton and starts using the same vernacular, there's probably going to be a fucking issue because
They're
they
gonna
don't know him.
learn.
Yeah, like they don't know him. They have no idea who this individual is. So
I'm not
yeah,
condoning violence, but if you run across the right one or the wrong one, however you want to put it,
yeah,
I can't give you an expectation of
The
what the
right
outcome's
one.
going to be.
Yeah,
100%.
I just so that's what I tell like when I'm having an online conversation and it's like a whole bunch of dudes is like, yo, we should be able to say the N word. I'm like, yeah, just go outside and say it. Like, don't come on Twitch. Like, don't come on Twitch and Discord. Just go
That's
outside and say it. Like,
my
see how it works out.
well, my whole thing is that this conversation turns into like the same conversation that it always turns into. Well, freedom of speech, right? Sure, freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequences. Not freedom of consequences. You're free to say whatever you want, but don't be surprised if someone goes upside of your head for the shit that comes out of your mouth. I'm not
Yeah,
condoning
yeah,
violence, but everyone's not me.
yeah.
You
I mean, I don't
would say
condone
that shit.
violence, but
I
sometimes
mean,
violence happens, and
it's not that I condone violence, but I understand. I understand the reaction. I'm
Well,
100% going to understand the reaction.
I think
So,
that point earlier where I can't remember, maybe it was Lethe, someone said this is really just a demonstration of that person's character,
yeah,
right? And I think
100%.
That
the
was
most
changed from X.
lasting consequence that I can levy on that person is I'm just simply not going to associate with them anymore.
100%.
And if it's a family member, I have to sit down and have a chat with them because I obviously they're family. I want to associate with them, and I have a duty to them to try and turn them away from that kind of behavior, right?
It's like,
But
why are you
if it's just
using
a
this
friend,
vernacular?
then
Yeah.
they're
Like, why
probably
are you
gone.
using this vernacular? Like, what is on your mind that makes you use, like, how do you feel about me as an individual? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well,
Like,
I'd be like
it
you're
points to
embarrassing
a
us
whole
all.
bunch of questions that I'm going to have as someone, you know what I mean, who's like indigenous and like like my ancestry is like slaves and indigenous Native Americans. So like I need I have questions. So if you're using the hard R, how do you feel about me? Oh no, you're different. Well, how am I different?
You're
What do
one of
you
the good
mean?
ones.
It's like what does that mean? So you're calling this individual the hard R. What does that, you know what I mean? That's going to imply to me exactly how you feel about me. And so I'm gonna have questions like, bro, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? Why would
Yeah,
you
no, you
say
should.
that?
right. Because I mean, let's give the best case scenario where they're not racist. They're still hurtful. They're hateful, right? They're even if they don't believe the history of that word and what the
Oh, I
dehumanizing
see what you're
aspect
saying.
of it,
Yeah, I see
they've
what you're saying.
still tried to say something as hurtful as possible to another person, and that isn't much better, right? That's still not someone I want to associate with, that wants to cut someone so quickly, so deeply, right? There's no art to it even to appreciate.
They could be saying it just as an insult and not necessarily because they hate black people, but they are saying it because they know how deep it's going to cut. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's like a nuclear version of it, right? And it's not artful in any way. It's not a clever insult or something that's going to make someone think about their behavior. It's just there to rip and tear out of here.
I'm done with this conversation. I'm gonna go play some video games. I'm gonna go play PoE.
I thought
Okay.
he was waiting for his chance to get a slur going, but I'm gonna leave it alone.
Oh,
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Because Magin's got some crazy take, and I need a room full of black people to weigh in on this.
Uh-oh.
Oh goodness.
It's nothing horrible. He apparently, although he's never produced the evidence, has stated that Kevin Garnett claims that the artist formerly known as Prince beat him one-on-one in basketball. And I just refuse to believe
Yeah,
that
no way.
KG would ever lose to
I don't
Prince
know,
in
bro.
basketball.
No
Apparently,
way.
there is a whole mythology around Prince in regards to his basketball prowess. Apparently, the motherfucker could hoop. Apparently, Prince was a hooper. A
Bro.
hooper.
Bro, you could
Wasn't there a skit
modify
about this?
you could modify his gameplay sliders as much as you want. He's not beating KG. It's not happening, bro.
I gotta agree with
It's not
GC
happening.
on this.
I would not think it's very difficult to beat KG considering it. Okay, so look at it like this, right? What is KG good at? Offense.
Basketball.
Not very good at
Everything.
defense. No, he's not good at everything because he's not good at defense. Like, let's be real. He's not good at
Wait,
defense at all.
what are you talking about?
Are you implying that KG is good at defense in
He's a
front
Hall
of
of
all of
Famer.
these individuals? Are you serious? Are you
We're
making that implication?
Wait,
Kevin,
are we talking?
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said KD. My bad. You're talking about Kevin
You don't
Garnett.
think Kevin
Oh shit!
Durant
Yeah,
can play
Kevin Garnett.
defense?
I thought you were
Yeah,
talking about. I thought you were talking about Kevin Durant, not Kevin
Kevin
Garnett.
Durant
You think
pre-injury.
Durant can't play
Wait,
defense? What?
Kevin.
Kevin,
No, wait, hold on. First off, Kevin.
KD
Yeah,
cannot play
K,
defense. He's not built for defense.
KD pre-injury definitely played defense. I'm not saying he was the greatest, but he definitely played defense pre-injury. But yeah, we're talking about KG.
Yeah, KG. That's kind of difficult for me to believe.
Yeah,
Like, what
doesn't
did
that
you say,
stem from like a
KG?
Chappelle show skit with they
Well, that was
did a
No, that was
that was
like
Charlie
that was
Murphy.
like Charlie Murphy. That was Charlie Murphy and all
I
Charlie
don't expect
Murphy's
Charlie
friends.
Murphy to be like the greatest at balling.
Well, Charlie Murphy was apparently like very athletic too. So he was very, very fucking athletic. And apparently he could hoop too, and all of his friends could hoop. The issue was, I think, that they went into it not knowing that Prince and like a lot of his band members could fucking play basketball. Like he
They
showed
could have went in blind. I don't care what the context is. KG is not losing Prince.
Just a
that's kind of
factoid.
crazy. That's kind of crazy.
Prince on the high end is recorded as being 5'3".
Yeah.
Okay, here's where I'm at
Yeah.
with this. There's a vast age difference here. KG born 76 and Prince born in 58.
In 77, he would have
That's
beat
what I
Prince.
mean. When did he play? When did he play?
So like
When did
maybe he
play
beat
him? Did
a
he play him when he was in high
15-year-old.
school? Because high
He
school,
would've
like
beat-
high school KG was in the NBA.
KG
Yeah, high
today
school
could beat
KG.
Prince in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, KG at 8 years old was beating Prince.
I did not. Okay, now we're bugging.
I believe the
Have you seen
myth.
that Scalabrini guy just absolutely clown on D1 players? And he's like the low end of the
Bro, I
NBA,
don't think y'all
but
know how
he's the
raw KG
NBA.
was. KG was
No,
one of the only players to go straight to the league from high school. He was a Kobe. He was in the
him and
96 draft.
him and Kobe.
So
Him
you
and
guys
Kobe
know
were the
about
last ones to do
the
it. After
there's
after
an
him and Kobe, they changed the rules so that couldn't happen.
so there was an
Yeah, him,
NBA
Kobe,
player
and
who
T
kept
Mac.
on getting clowned on social media, right? And they kept on saying how he sucked. He sucked because his numbers were so low.
Brian
And
Scalabrine.
so
Yeah.
White Mamba.
Yeah, White Mamba. Yeah, exactly.
and so he invited people over and just like kicked the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, like D1, G League, like all these top level type guys, not in the NBA, just showing the gap between NBA and like everyone underneath it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this story. It looks
Yeah.
like he's like 13 years old when this went down. Like when it comes
I don't
down
care.
to any sort of mythological situation, I believe more that Michael Jackson punked Tupac over Prince beating
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett.
Okay, Michael Jackson was like a gangsta, though. Like, that guy was buying discographies when people looked at him sideways.
Just saying.
Bro, the beef between
Hey.
him and Prince is epic. Like holy
Should we talk
shit.
about something extremely explosive?
You talking about MC Hammer?
Sure,
MC
why
Hammer
not?
was a gangster
Hammer
too.
was
Like
also
the
punking
mythology
people.
around MC Hammer. Whoa,
All right,
What you
y'all,
got,
y'all
Gams?
gotta
Stood on business, I believe.
y'all gotta let me y'all gotta let me
Sadie's
finish before y'all react, okay? Y'all
I'm
all
gonna
promise
regret
me
this.
do y'all
Are
promise
you gonna
me
do a
y'all gonna let
magic
me
trick?
finish?
If you're gonna do a magic trick, I can't promise because I get really excited.
No. I'm finna set a topic and I want to hear y'all opinion. But I do wanna be able to finish.
Do your thing.
All right.
All right, listen. All right. I know this is not, this is not good table talk. And I want y'all to let me finish, okay?
He said that 3
Holy
times. I'm
shit!
scared now.
You want
I
to
feel
finish?
scared.
I want you to start. Let's meet in the middle.
Listen. All right, I'm saying sonically. Sonically means like musically and the ambiance
I know
of
what he's
it
gonna say. I
and
already
all of
know.
this.
Do it.
Listen.
Linda, listen.
I'm saying only sonically. That new Kanye West is a slap. Like it's ridiculously good. Now, the messaging and the words we should all detest it and we should hate the song because of it. But listen, it's actually a slapper. It is actually I hate that I have to say it, but it's actually a slapper.
Like the one thing that Kanye West can always do is make some fucking good music. Now, the things that he says in his songs, questionable, especially like new Kanye. I want the old Kanye,
No,
100%.
but have you heard uh Hail Hitler?
I heard the song, sure. Like I didn't like the song. I didn't like
Oh, the song is a
I didn't
slap.
no. What I mean when I say I didn't like the song, I mean
The words. I
I
didn't
didn't
like
like
that either.
his work. I didn't like the writing. But the music 100% you're correct. The
Yeah,
writing, not so much.
As I've
Whoever he was getting to write for him in the past, that should be who's writing for him now.
that was Drake.
as I've always said about Kanye, like probably since his first album, his bars are trash. He should just stop
Yeah.
putting lyrics over anything.
No.
His beat making is genius. If he would just stick to doing that, we'd probably be in a better world right now.
Wait, have you listened to how
I
how
listened.
Hitler?
I've listened to it. I am glad that it got yeeted.
But it's a slap. Just say it.
The beat's alright.
Nah, it's a slap. No, I don't need you to say the beat side. I need you to say it's a slap.
No,
I'm not gonna say
absolutely
it's a
isn't.
slap, but it's definitely up there. It's not like I wouldn't put it in the top 10 of like my favorite Kanye West beats.
Oh, no, yeah,
Yeah.
Kanye is a story. Like, yeah, of course it's not top 10.
Like I was
I'm
gonna
just
say, would you
saying,
even put it in his top 10 beats? Let
Yeah,
alone anything
I
else.
wouldn't.
Like I wouldn't even
I
put
would
it
not.
there.
It's good. It's good. Like when you hear it, if there were no words, would you be able to tell that Kanye produced it? 100%. It's got Kanye written all over it.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely
just want
bears
to
the
know.
earmark. But
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to know how y'all felt about, a slapper.
I think
You
that
know.
entire album needs
In a lot
to
of
be
situations, I
buried.
try and separate the
Wait,
art.
wait. There's an album?
Yeah, he has an entire album.
Really?
Have you seen the track
You
listing?
didn't know?
I don't want to throw up the entire track
Is it
listing, so I'm
is
going to
it
DM
all
you.
pure slaps?
Oh my god. I'm not gonna promote his album.
I'm not either, and that's
Personally,
why I'm
think they
going
all
to
suck.
DM it directly to GSU because
Yeah. I'm not even gonna say the
the
name of the album because I
discography,
don't really
the
want to.
name of the album is ridiculous. The track listing on the
Yeah.
album is insulting.
Yes.
I know I heard the song. I heard the song about him giving his cousin head or some crazy shit.
That
But
was the tweet. Well, no, he did have a song about that, but I don't
yeah,
even
that's a song
understand.
named Cousins or something.
Yeah,
I
that's on the
found the
list.
album. I found the album as artistically interesting as like anything that LMFAO put out, and
Yeah.
deserves far less airplay than I'm Sexy and I Know It.
Yeah. That's true. I like that's actually a really good comparison. See, Kanye for me, in the way that I consume art, I try and go into it with an open mind. I try and separate the art from the artist, and Kanye makes that really hard for me to do,
Yes,
especially on this album, because he's doing all of this shit blatantly. So I can't, he's making it so you can't separate his art from the artist.
But
It's
he's doing it
impossible to go
purposely.
into this. Yeah, he's doing it purposefully. It's impossible to sit down and listen to this album and remove and separate the art from the artist and listen to it objectively. You can't.
You looking at that track
He
listing,
makes it
well, you
GSU?
can
impossible.
do it. You can do it with Hal Hitler. It's hard to do it, but you can do it. That song is such a
I mean,
slap that you can do it.
What do you mean?
I mean, I
It's
can,
boring.
It's
I
not
It's
can, I
special.
can,
boring.
It's not special
He's
at
just
all.
I've
vomiting his
listened.
Have
feelings
y'all
up onto
have
a
y'all
bass line.
have y'all listened to it like with speakers?
Yes,
Yes.
No, no way, no way.
Which is why
yes.
I'm telling you,
Lap
it is a
speakers.
good beat.
So I'm
It
gonna go
is a
ahead
good
and
beat.
promote that Billy
The
Woods
writing
just
is
put out a new
trash, though.
album, and so if you'd actually like to listen to some good music, Billy Woods just put out some new music. Check that
Yeah.
out, and ignore the every ounce of this. Do you see the track
Like
listing,
I could literally go and
Oh,
listen
hold on,
to
let
a
me check.
album from like 2009, and that's better. That's better sonically wise and lyrically wise than Kanye's new album. It's not even close.
Well, I had listened to the album. I'm only talking about one song.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're talking
just
Wait,
the
about
one
one
listen to
song,
song.
but
something he says.
that one song, I could literally bring up like one song off of like a Sean Price album that would blow that shit out of the fucking water, sonically and lyrically.
I mean, just on College Dropout, he has much better songs.
Wait, no,
Much better
y'all
songs.
talking about legendary albums. I'm not comparing this throwaway song to like legendary albums.
Well,
I
this
mean,
is
those slap
Kanye, so
though.
in his mind, everything that he does is legendary. So this
Nah,
album, like,
Kanye knows that this stuff is not close to like My Beautiful Dark Twisted
So
Fantasy.
he's
Like,
I
putting
no.
out
have
substandard
no
material and
idea.
forcing us
It
to
does
talk
not
about it.
sound like when you listen to this album, Kanye does not give the impression that he is aware
What?
that
He's
this
not
album
supposed to
is
give
not
that
as
impression.
good. Well, then you're
But
contradicting.
nobody, no, wait, no, wait. Okay, Usher dropped the album named
In
Confessions.
Kanye's mind, this album that he just released is better than all of his other albums. He gives you that impression in the album.
Wait, but that's what artists do. Usher dropped Confessions. It's no way in even an infinite time scale he could produce a better album. and he knows that. But he's still
Well, he
gonna
didn't
promote his
necessarily
new stuff.
produce that album. He didn't produce that album. JD produced that album.
No, I'm saying like released, like made, like not like he was the producer on it. But he'll never given an infinite time scale, he still couldn't produce something better than Confessions, and he knows that. But he's still gonna make new music.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
like,
sometime as an artist, you just drop some of the greatest shit ever, and like you're never gonna beat the shit like Kanye will never make something better than the first three albums of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I don't care what he does; it'll never be something he makes that's better than that.
That doesn't mean he mails it
Twisted.
in on the new albums,
Yeah,
though. You chase greatness, you don't sit on
yeah,
it.
you chase greatness. You don't like sit on a throne of lies.
Well put, Mando.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not
this
gonna
new
overjudge
Kanye album
myself to
reminds
this.
me more of Tattoo from like the early 2000s when that Russian group and they were like, "Oh, we need to generate some attention for our album, so let's pretend to be Nazis. Sorry, I mean lesbians, and
Yeah.
let's kiss." In the video, because it'll be so controversial, especially in Russia, where you're not supposed to kiss.
It worked for the
And
Island
it
Boys.
worked.
Bro, you're touching on some really good points right now. And it always seems like whenever Kanye releases like new music or a new album, he's at his most controversial.
Nah, that's not true.
Bro, you're bugging. The last fucking album that he released, he was doing the exact same fucking shit. Remember
There
when
was
he
no
was like,
controversy when.
"What? The last album that he released? Are you
No,
telling
wait,
me that he
no,
wasn't
you
like
didn't.
going on?"
You
Oh, okay.
literally interrupted me and didn't let me
I'm sorry.
finish. There was no controversy during College Dropout, Late Registration,
Because he
808s
didn't
and
need it. It was
Heartbreak,
good music.
Graduation,
I'm not
My
talking
Beautiful
about
Dark Twisted Fantasy, Saint Pablo. None of those albums had controversy.
like the controversy around Saint Pablo was Kim, and
So,
There
so,
was,
the
so can we
controversy
say?
around My Twisted Dark Fantasy was him being bipolar.
So can we agree that all the problems with Kanye and his outbursts are because of the Kardashians, and say they broke him and just be done with it?
Uh,
I think Kanye is much more intelligent, and I'm not saying intelligent. I'm saying he's much more intelligibly doing these things than y'all. But he's doing these things
Intentional.
on purpose to troll and like quote unquote get back. I don't think he's like having a bipolar episode and releasing this.
But he wasn't
I
trolling
think it's
before in his
shot.
greatest albums, right? He was speaking truth to power. He was bringing common experience and putting it on wax so that people could actually talk about it. He was challenging existing power structures and talking
I
about
mean, wait,
topics that just weren't
he,
allowed. And I don't think most black men who date a big booty Serbian girl or whatever she is has a kid and then breaks up and has to pay child support with no custody rights become Nazis. I think that is a minority situation in the black community. He is not speaking to any common experience. He's
wait,
just being crass to try and gain attention. He's hurt. I'll give him that. He needs help. This is
wait.
like his Britney Spears moment. He just shaved his head on an album, and someone needs to get that guy, pantyless as he is, out of the car and into the insane asylum for a little while.
Okay, wait. All right. And I gotta preface this with a few statements. I'm not at all saying I agree with Kanye West's approach. I'm not at all saying I agree with all of his ideas. But what you just said was him speaking truth to power and speaking about control and all these other things.
Historically,
In some respects, some of the things that he's done over the last 2 years are exactly that, 1,000%. Now he's gone much too far and much too inflammatory and much too
Okay.
wild for my taste. But a lot of what he's done over the past 2 years is to speak to some of the bullying that loads of black people in the entertainment feel.
Well, I think he's been doing that for. I think he's been doing that for longer than 2 years. Like even on my Dark Twisted Fantasy and Saint Pablo, like he was going to radio stations and calling out record labels. Right. That's why like the last what 2 or 3 albums he's
Oh
released,
no, 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 no.
he did it.
I agree with you on this. He was
You
saying
know what
that
I mean?
Kanye in the last.
Remember when Saint Pablo like released and he was on tour and he had that huge tangent on stage where he was calling out Jay-Z, he was calling out the
Yeah.
record companies, he was calling out these fucking conglomerates and shit like that. You know what I mean? You remember that?
Yes.
Like
Yeah, he did like
remember that
16 minutes.
that huge
That's
remember that
yeah,
huge thing
Jay-Z
that
put it in a song.
yeah, remember that huge thing that happened in Shady 45 where him and fucking
Yeah,
Sway
you
got
ain't got to answer, Sway.
yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like all of those things happen, but that's not the same Kanye that we're seeing now.
It's the
Right?
exact same Kanye.
I don't
This is
believe so. Because the
the
Kanye
same
that was
Kanye that
talking
said
about all
George
of those
Bush
things
doesn't like
isn't
black people. Wait,
100%.
the same
100%.
Kanye that said George Bush doesn't like black
George Bush
people is
doesn't care
saying
about black
there's a lot of Jewish executives that don't like black people. These are the
people. 100.
same human being. He's just way more inflammatory and hurt now, but this is the same human.
I would say that he's hurt, sure, but this is like a completely different level, right? Completely different level to
Yeah.
be like anti-Semitic, where you start calling yourself a Nazi, right? Even
It's
even
wild.
even on that fucking album, and I'm not sure if this is the real Kanye that we're seeing now in his true form, like his final form. Because remember, like what
Nah,
was
this is
that?
not his final form.
A fucking decade ago, you remember the fucking album that he did with Jay-Z where he had the fucking song called Black Skinhead?
Yeah, you talking about Watch the Throne?
Yeah, Watch the Throne. So
Form?
all yeah, so like if he made a song back then called Black Skinhead, and in that song he said some crazy fucking shit, but it was like pro-black shit, basically him talking about like basically him implying his hatred for the industry, specifically probably for white people, to be honest with you. He's a black skinhead who like hates the individuals who are in charge, and he believes that those individuals are all Jewish, right? And now we see him, and he's kind of saying the
I don't,
same
wait,
thing. It's
wait.
the
I,
same
I think
fucking
we,
message.
I think
It's
we
the
should be
same.
slightly more nuanced. I don't
Okay,
think he just hates people that are in charge. He hates the way that the black community is treated and is hurt by those specific individuals. He doesn't just randomly hate people.
no, no. I was very specific. He hates the individuals who are in charge in the music industry, right?
Yeah, but when you don't say
Specifically,
why, it sounds like blind hatred, like the white lady in the park yelling at the black kid.
no, no. You're right. You're right. So like my point was like in Black Skinhead, he's kind of expressing his anger for specific individuals, and I'm going to I'm going to say that what he's implying in that song is 100% aimed towards like the individuals who are in charge in regards to like uh, the music industry, and he's already on plenty of occasions after that, and even some a little bit before that. He's been very adamant with saying that a lot of these individuals are Jewish, right? And they don't care about Black culture. They don't care about the people who make this music. It's just a way for them to
Well,
profit.
they
They make
Leon Cohen, who will tell you that they don't care and tell you that they're profiting off the destruction of black people publicly.
Yeah, but you can use those words instead of the ones he did, right? Like I think
100%.
Why
you're at a
use
point
wait.
hateful
where art
iconography?
there is a
Wait.
deep appreciation for transgressiveness in art, especially contemporary art.
Yeah.
And I think you can push boundaries, and you can even break some boundaries, but there's some boundaries that are just not going to
100%.
be tolerated. I think back to there was an art exhibit in South America where a guy literally chained a street dog in an art exhibit and was starving it to death. And that got a lot of pushback, obviously. And I think there's a point where whatever message that artist was trying to deliver, whatever message Kanye was trying to deliver, is buried underneath the fact that they both went too far, and all the conversation then happens around the transgression instead of the message that the art was trying to
100%.
to convey. I think he failed with this one. He missed the mark, and whatever point he was trying to make is never going to see the light of day behind the level of contempt that people have heaped upon him for the method in which he approached it.
Yeah. It's like Black Skinhead is a song that I feel kind of says the exact same message as Hi Hitler, except Black Skinhead is more accepted. For me personally, I like Black Skinhead. I love that fucking song. But Hi Hitler, like I don't like anything he said on the fucking new album. Sonically, sure, he's got some fucking bangers, but that's what Kanye is known for, right? It seems more like he's using his platform of music to aggressively state like his position and express his anger towards these fucking people that he doesn't like in an aggressive manner, right?
Yeah, he's
And
definitely doing that.
it's taking away from
You,
his art because of the way that he's doing it. It's so fucking, it's so radical. Like it doesn't, it's like some of it doesn't even make sense. So individuals are like, especially individuals like me who like love like the art style of music are like, bro, like you, what the fuck is this? What is this supposed to mean, Kanye? What are you doing?
well, do you guys think
Why?
that in context now this song injures the power of Black Skinhead? And do you think that instead of something that was witty and challenging is really going to be seen in retrospect as maybe dog whistling for some hatred that has been fomenting for like decades, I guess?
Well, for me, it seems like it's hatred. It seems like the last part of what you said that you know this album
It's
kind of
mask off.
points to certain aspects, right? Because now I can see a pattern. I can go back to all of his other music. I can go back to his interviews, and I can go back to all of these perfect examples that create this pattern of consistency, and then it just becomes, oh, well, he was always like this, except now he's just not holding back, basically. He's going mask off. Like, this is who he has always been. He's been giving us kind of breadcrumbs to this. And now we're getting to see him at his full potential. Like, this is Kanye.
I
I mean, it
think
really doesn't matter. Does it matter like if he was it the whole time or if he just is it now? He's a piece of shit now. Who really fuck cares?
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
he's
Yeah,
been a
but
piece of
there's
shit
some
in my
strength in
head
his
for a long
previous stuff,
time.
right?
But my deal is if you have issues with particular people in a group, take it out on the particular people in the group, not make the
he
entire group
has.
suffer.
Or are you
No, he
advocating
has
for
taken it
genocide?
out on
Oh no, wait, the other
specific
way around.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing the exact
Kanye is one of
opposite.
the only. Kanye, no, he's not. Kanye is one of the only people in media that actually calls people's names.
Yet using the iconography of hatred against their entire group wouldn't be seen
Yeah.
as a problem.
So wait, it
Well, he's
sounds
like,
like you're trying to get me to defend things that I've already admitted are indefensible. But there are other groups that are just as wildly anti-black, and like it just happens. It just
I
is what it is.
Yeah, but I think it's challenging to say that there's a lot of power in his individual critiques when the messaging and iconography that he chooses to leverage is of a group that was literally trying to exterminate the entire racial and religious group in question.
Yeah, there's an entire part of our country that wants to erect statues of people who wanted to subjugate black people forever.
And
But
so if there
you
were
don't look at
they're not
those
good
people
either.
with the
Yeah,
hold
they're not
on.
good
I want
either.
to finish.
go ahead.
I want to finish.
That doesn't
But
mean
we
you start
don't
being
give
hatred
the,
for
hold on.
being
I want to
Nazi.
finish. I want to finish. We don't give those people the same contempt, and we don't ban them from the world. And that, I think that's a part of Kanye's, like, what he's doing. And I'm not, like I said, I don't agree with it at all. I think is going way too far.
What about Charlottesville, though? I mean, you just said they don't condemn them, but there was like a literal whole counter protest where people died directly because of erecting or maintaining statues to racism. Like the
That was
sentiment is
another thing
changing.
that was anti-Jewish, not anti-black.
What? It was
Yeah,
like
but what
a
about isn't
Confederate
the Confederate
general,
flag
wasn't it?
banned?
It was.
Yeah, isn't the Confederate flag banned? Like, isn't it like
You
banned
can't
in the
watch the
South?
Dukes of
I
Hazzard
don't believe it's
anymore. What are you
banned,
talking
but
about?
Wait,
It's
it's
not
not
banned.
banned. It
Dukes of
flies in
Hazzard
some
just went a
states.
little bit,
Hold on,
further
wait.
than the luck of the
I
law.
think I think we're really trying to revise history, and I want to make sure we don't do that. The Confederate flag is flown in, I'm pretty sure, it may be in my state of Georgia, in certain state buildings, but I have to look this up. But anyway, but the bad part about Charlottesville was the Jews will not replace us chants and all of that. It wasn't anti-blackness.
can it be
But the
both?
whole
I do
point
think
was trying to take down a
to
Confederate war
combat,
memorial.
yeah. So to combat the individuals, right, who Kanye has already said are all Jewish, right? He's obviously anti-Semitic. He is. There's no disputing that. There is no debate. He is anti-Semitic. He is
Yeah,
clearly adamant about that. And to fight against these individuals, he takes on the moniker of a regiment that we literally went to war to take out, the
yeah, and
Nazis.
there's people in our country that use a regiment that literally seceded from the Union and had to all be killed.
Yeah, they're bad.
Like,
Yeah, and socially, that's not acceptable, though. That is not acceptable
wait,
in modern
wait,
society
what,
right now.
that's
that
just
is
not true. I went to buy fucking fireworks for July 4th, and there was like fucking Confederate iconography over half of the fucking like firework. Like, what are we talking? Like, I don't know if y'all just don't live in the South, but it's completely okay to be a Confederate sympathizer in this country. It's not like something that's viewed as bad. Most even left wing white people say, yeah, they have some connection to heritage, which is fucking 4 years of people that they don't know that all died. So I think y'all are being incredibly biased, like incredibly biased.
Number
I
one.
don't think there are as many Confederate flags
I
out
lived
there as
in
there used to be,
Tennessee. I
but
lived in
there was still a
Tennessee
good
for 10
decent number.
years. Yeah, I lived in Tennessee for 10 years. So you're not,
You,
and
you
I lived
saw
in Texas.
Confederate flags on trucks in Tennessee.
Okay,
There's
but
no
you know,
way you didn't.
I
What I
am
saw were
never going to
American
dispute that
flags.
you
What
can
I
find
saw
a
were
case behind
American
that, right?
flags and Tennessean flags. The state of Tennessee flags. I didn't see Confederate flags in Tennessee.
You're saying
lived-
you're saying that there aren't pickup trucks with the Confederate flag on it in Tennessee?
But definitely.
Maybe there,
Okay.
maybe there are.
You
There
never
weren't.
went outside.
Guaranteed there are, but if you were to put that to the national consciousness, if you were to put it on national TV, you would see an outcry against
No,
it.
you wouldn't.
Oh, guarantee you would.
Oh, use the
Hell
voice.
no. You
I guess it
wouldn't.
would.
You're gonna make me go high pitched again. What
I
are you
guess it
doing?
would all depend. It would all depend on the area that you were in. 100%. The area
The
that I lived
narrative will always be, hey,
area
we're a
that I
country that has
in
it.
Tennessee, No one was rocking the Confederate flag. Where I lived in Tennessee for 10 fucking years, individuals were proud to put American flags on the backs of their fucking trucks. They would put Tennessee flags. They had the Tennessee football team on the backs of their fucking trucks. They had U.S. Army flags, U.S. Navy flags, et cetera, et cetera. No Confederate flags. Maybe in other parts of Tennessee that I did not experience, sure, maybe they did. But I'm talking about where I lived in Tennessee. And where I live in Texas, no one flies any fucking Confederate flags. Maybe they do in other parts of Texas, maybe rural parts of Texas, right?
Wait,
Like rural
I'm
parts of
not asking. I'm not asking you in your community. I'm talking about the state.
Oh, okay. Can
I'm
we?
talking about the ideology that if you see people with Confederate flags in these states, the major position is, hey, we're a country of free speech and they're attached to their heritage and that should be okay. And you're a snowflake if you're against it. That's what the
the
zeitgeist is in the South about the Confederate flag.
community is a part of the state, though. There are different communities within the state that make up the state.
I'm looking
Yeah,
at this
exactly.
slightly
That's my point.
differently. So, like, what if instead of Confederate flags, because that's an entirely different conversation, what if there was
Yeah.
burning crosses or whips or other implements?
Like nooses and shit like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
A swastika.
Exactly.
Wait, I don't get
I
what are
mean,
you asking?
I'm saying,
He's asking like what if individuals were like burning crosses or like hanging nooses from like
or just
trees and
had
shit
that on
like
their
that
car, like a flag
as
with a
like
burning
Wait,
cross
self-expression.
or a
the
whip or a
the
noose.
problem with the premise of your question is you think the Confederate flag isn't worse than those things. Like
well, I
the
mean,
Are you
Confederate
saying that
the
are you
noose
saying that the
is pretty.
Confederate are you saying that the Confederate flag implies all of those things?
I'm saying the
Yes,
Confederate flag is worse than anything we've talked about in this conversation.
except for the noose.
Mm,
The noose
Are you
directly
saying the
leads to
Confederate
something.
flag is worse than like the Nazi symbol?
Yeah, for sure. What? Yes.
What?
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
I just can't. I can't.
I mean, I didn't see no TV show with an old muscle car with a swastika on the
Yeah.
roof
Well,
going do 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 do.
well, I don't
Did we go to
necessarily totally agree with it, but the
did we go
Nazi
to
symbol
war?
lasted. The Nazi symbol lasted for what, like a decade and a half, where the Confederate flag has been a symbol of overt racism and is still acceptable in America today.
Just,
Okay, but
I mean,
Germany
just the
literally banned all Nazi
yeah,
iconography
they
in their
banned it because
country.
anti-blackness is cool and anti like fair
Not,
skinned people isn't. That's why it's banned there. If the American history was Germany, they probably would have banned the Confederate flag just like they banned the the Nazi
I feel like y'all
memorabilia.
figured out the white man's secret
It's
plan against you, and I should get the hell out of here before you kill me. Y'all have a
it's
good night.
because
you have a good night too,
Germany
Freddy
fucked
Fox.
up twice in 1 century, and the second time they fucked up so bad, the world divided the country in two and freaking made them wipe out all the existence of all of that iconography and support for that group within the country because they were never going to let it happen again. Because
Yeah, and I'm saying
literally
that
millions
doesn't
and millions
hold
of
a
people.
candlestick to what Confederate believers wanted.
I don't
Okay, but
believe
there's
that.
wanted versus what happened. Which war saw
Wait,
greater amounts
what
of death? How
happened
many
was
people
a
died in the
storied
Civil War? I
history.
don't even know.
Well, you're just talking about the Civil War. Like, there's a
World War
storied
II.
history of chattel slavery.
World War II is a part of historic history. Hello? It's a part of American history too.
What about it?
World War
not
II,
not
like
only
what are you
did the
talking
war
about?
happen that
Like all of
quote unquote ended slavery, but it then 100 years of oppression afterwards that people just forget
Yeah,
about.
wait, hold on. I don't know what Mando is saying. You think I don't know World War II? What is your question?
that wasn't a question. Like World War
What
II
made
is
you
a part of
bring it up?
American. Well, because
Yeah, it is.
you're talking about how slavery is a part of American history, and I'm saying World War II and our fight against the Nazi regime is also a part of American history.
Okay, let I agree, but I'm asking you what was the point of saying that?
The point in saying that was to because we're talking about like slavery and like its comparability to like the whole fight against Nazis, right? You're saying that
Hmm.
the Confederate flag is worse than the symbol
Yeah,
that
by far.
represents the Nazi regime, right?
Yeah, by
Which
far.
I
It's not even close.
which I disagree with, right? And then you're saying, well, slavery was a part of history. It's undeniable, right? That's what you
Wait,
said.
that
And
I
my response
wasn't.
to okay,
I
go ahead, go
wasn't.
ahead.
I don't think I said it that way. Because I think we all know that. I think I didn't forget. Somebody said something before. I can't remember. I think it was Wombat. I can't remember. Armando. Somebody said something, and I was responding. It was. I can't remember. I, I can't remember what was said, but I wasn't just blankly saying, "Oh, hey, slavery is a part of American history." Like we all know that, right? Like I was making a
Which is why
broader
my
point, but I
response
can't
was,
remember.
yeah, that was why my response was, yeah, World War II is a part of American history. What's your point? Like you're comparing slavery to something that happened in World War II, right? And then
Wait, where?
you're making a
Wait, to be
statement,
hyper
well, slavery
specific.
is a part of American history. It's like, okay, well, World War II
Mm,
is also a part of American history. So what's your point in
Yeah.
making that?
Okay. So. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because this is wild to me. Okay. When we're talking about the Confederacy, slavery, and the ideas that happened within our border and the hatred that existed for hundreds of years, when you try to compare that to a war that we were involved in with like a grand scale war, but you're talking about an ideology that wasn't in the blood of the people in the country. You're comparing something, you're saying that this is American history, but the war is American history. But what happened in Germany isn't, like, it's American history because we were a part of the world, just like they were a part of the world during slavery. But these things aren't comparable ideas in terms of American history.
Okay,
I
quick
mean,
question. Quick
obviously it
question.
is. It's so
Just
comparable.
quick
It's so
question.
comparable that Kanye West is literally calling himself a black Nazi.
I just have a quick
What are you
question.
talking about?
Did slavery exist before that flag existed?
Yes.
Yes.
Did what happened in Germany exist before that symbolism was used?
Yes.
Not
Kind of.
that way.
Ooh.
I
Yeah,
mean,
kind of.
there was
Anti-Semitism existed,
general,
but
yeah,
the Holocaust did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're
general
talking about like the
European anti-Semitism.
1920s, 1930s to the 1940s. Yeah, the Confederate flag probably existed before World War II, maybe.
Of course.
But
Wait, what? Yeah, of
Of
course it
course, it
did.
existed before then. What are you talking about?
Like, what are we talking about? This is 1865
Yeah.
versus 1941. Of course it
I-
existed.
So I think
So you're
Gambit
joking.
made a very valid point that when you talk about from the standpoint of American history, that the Confederate flag and the Civil War has a more direct and a more lasting impact on the American consciousness, the culture, and everything that moves forward. I think when we talk about the intensity of the hate that was performed under those symbols, the Confederate flag versus the Nazi swastika, like I think globally there's more revulsion put behind the swastika, including in the United States, than the Confederate flag, just because of the sheer magnitude of what was done underneath that banner, right? Like to put it in context, if the
is that
if
what Gambit was trying to
If
Is that what Gambit
No,
was trying to say?
well, that's what I'm saying.
He's trying to say.
But just to wrap up real quickly on that, if the Confederates would have killed like every black slave in the South rather than give it up, like let's just say they opened concentration camps and they literally did what Hitler did, and it tried to exterminate every black slave in southern United States. I think if you just went based by the number of slaves that were freed under what was it, the 13th Amendment, if I remember right,
19.
there were fewer slaves freed than there were Jews killed in World War II.
I mean, and also just the thing I mentioned of the symbolism of the Confederate flag is like whenever some fight for some civil right was going on, that's when the Confederate flag started popping out in abundance.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think part of this is
and
just going to be opinion, right? And I don't want to take anything away from GSU's or Gambit's position. I think it's perfectly valid, and I don't want to downplay the atrocity of what happened in the United States at that time frame.
No reason to.
I just don't completely agree with the position, but I'm open to being wrong, and I don't want to downplay the his feelings on the
No,
Confederates.
there's no way to downplay.
No, it's a shitty symbol.
Well, there
Hey,
is.
There's
I
no
just
way to
don't do it.
downplay like what it represents, like the symbolism to like the atrocities that are tied to like the Confederate flag. There's no way that it's not debatable. It's not. It's really not. Like and I guess I'm coming from it from I guess I'm kind of biased because like I am black. I guess I'm kind of biased. So for me, like, living in the South and like being an African American, like I'm kind of biased. So for for me, I know what the Confederate flag represents, and I know the history behind it, and I know what's tied to it, right? But there's also the aspect of the things that I know about World War II and like the entire Nazi regime and all of the things that happened during that period of time too. So it's kind of difficult for me to compare the two, I guess. I guess it's difficult for me to compare the two, right? Like
God,
you could
Well,
that's
what were we
fine.
rolling this back
no,
up
no,
to?
look,
I think
no.
we kind of
We
lost the
can
thread.
literally if you look at it, right? If you look at what he's saying, and this is literally how he's comparing it, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If you think about it from a different point of view, right? From a certain point of view, black slaves were in open concentration camps. They were. The same kind of vitriol that the Nazis had for Jews and non-Germans, slave masters and plantation owners had for slaves, right? Like we were talking about it earlier, like slaves were literally less than cattle. We were less valuable, and the only reason that someone couldn't just kill a slave is because it was property of someone else, and then you'd have to pay this motherfucker money for killing their property, right? But the slave master and plantation owner could do whatever the fuck he wanted, right? But if that makes sense.
Well,
But like all of the
what was this
go ahead.
supposed to roll back up to, right? Because honestly, I feel a little gross in this comparison.
Yep.
What,
And so I'm just
what
wondering what value we were trying to extract from it
no,
because
what this was rolling back up to, I can't remember what y'all said about Kanye, but I talked about how I think what Kanye is doing is throwing into white people's faces what we deal with every day and is free speech conversation. Like, yeah, I just think that's what Kanye is doing. I don't agree with the way that he's going about it, but I think the message is powerful for sure. And like, I
But he's
think
not
there's a lot of
necessarily the white people. He's only attacking Jews, it seems to be like. That's what it seems like to me, from my perspective.
yeah, Jews and whites are somewhat interchangeable, but I agree that they're different
What?
demographics.
No.
No,
I mean
wait,
that's fair. I think it's understandable why he would say.
If you go look at the census of what Jews put, they put white.
Yeah, if he sees Jewish people as white people, then what he's saying actually is understandable. It makes sense why he would say that. So I think it's fair. I think.
Wait, I'm not saying that there's not a difference. I'm just saying that like colloquially, Jew and white is like replaceable. Like they're like the same
Oh,
term.
they
I can
will not
think of a
replace us.
very large segment of white people that very much disagree with you.
Yeah, and we can go look at the census of what Jewish people put when they do their census. Like,
Well, and again, my main criticism is if Kanye was trying to deliver a message with this, he went too far over the line and he himself became the story instead of the message that he was trying to relay. So he has failed as an artist, with trying to make a social commentary with this album.
Agreed.
I agree and disagree at the same time. I think he's definitely sent a message, and I think he's also went too far. I think this was just his plan. He was like, "Hey, I got to go too far to deliver this message," and yeah, it just it kind of sucks, but hey.
Well, I think for like most people who are going to listen to this album, right? The message that they're going to get is Kanye doesn't like Jews. He doesn't like Jews. The message that's going to be sent is not going to be like he's trying to basically fight fire with fire and give all white
No,
people.
I definitely think that's what people. I think that's what. If you go look at what he's saying, these people helped take my kid away, told me they were going to put me into a hospital and med me until I was like incapacitated, and all the other stuff. I think it's easy to look at the things that he said publicly and understand what's happening. Like I said, I think he went way too far, but it's easy to look at what he said and understand his message. And I
Okay,
think
but
you
I
have to
think
do a
Kanye
lot of
does
mental
need
gymnastics to ignore that.
Kanye does
no,
need
I-
some medication and some alone time in a nice therapeutic setting.
There we
So,
go.
like, I think that's a message that a lot of people are going to take away from this. That wow, this guy is broken, and I'm probably going to get shit talked by my wife for a good 30 seconds.
You know
Is
what
when
Kanye's real
Leafy
message
said
is?
this, she shit talked him for 30 seconds.
I'm gonna let
But
Zephyr
I
get the
think
last word.
Kardashian broke him. Kardashian broke him.
He was
She
already
was the
broken. It
final
just didn't
straw.
help.
Leafy, I think I know what Kanye's real message is.
Please.
His real message is that when Kanye West says Nazi shit, people want him to isolate himself, find time for himself, change his mental state. But when a random white person says Nazi shit, people want to kill him.
Ooh. Okay, we're gonna raid out on that. Thank you, Zephyr, for bringing that home. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution in killing the conversation.
He finally did it. Thank you, Zephyr. Exactly what you've been here this whole time for. You just didn't know what your moment was. Thank you, chat. As always, you are the true winners, or in this case, we all went down with the ship together. Appreciate you all. Catch you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace.
Magneto was right.
Oh, that's actually appropriate.
Wow, that's crazy. That's actually insane.